Saturday weekend here with Liv, Dylan, talking about. I'm here with Lib, talking about. What were we talking about? Oh, Lib had some analogy or little illustration he wanted to share with us about to try to make his case for Marxism or something.
Well, more so that like you can be a Marxist without defending the USSR or the CCP or something like that. So the thing is, right? So you're pro representative democracy, right? I think we both are. We both like representative democracy,
like we have now here in the United States.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Although, like, I'm conceptually, I'm
open to alternatives, but I haven't seen any yet that have swayed me. So I'm currently pro what we have now.
Yeah, I think like basically every variation of representative democracy is basically better than basically every other form of government, right? Like I think we can kind of agree there. Even like European democracies are better than most other kinds of governments, right? Even if like we might have our issues with those democracies, but we're pro that.
But I also would say it's what works for each people. So for some people, an autocracy might work. For some people, a theocracy. I just know for here in America, and what I grew up as an American under, that is what I think is the best for my type of people.
Yes. So since we both like representative democracy, someone may ask, well then what makes you like North Korea so much?
I don't know anything about North Korea. I mean, I don't like their government. I don't know anything about the people.
But Jeff, the North Korean government claims to be a representative democracy. They're a democratic republic.
Well,
it's in the name.
Did you really think this was going to work?
I mean, no, I'm serious.
You came in here so hopeful. Just knowing me and just having been on a few streams with you, what do you think I'm going to say? Like, what am I about to say?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm not interested in what it claims to be. I'm talking about actual representative democracy like we have here in the U.S.
Yes.
So if North Korea is not one of those, then that's not the category I'm talking about.
And that is my answer to why I am a Marxist and yet I don't defend the USSR. I'm not interested in what the USSR claimed to be. I'm interested in what the USSR
because they're not Marxists. But if they were Marxists, you would defend them.
If their actions had demonstrated that they were, then they would be. But then I might defend them. However, considering I mean, even just a cursory glance, if you just read Marx, Marx talks about liberty quite often. He talks about freedom quite often. Marx was actually kind of weirdly an individualist for being a communist. He's not an individualist in the same way that like, Americans are individualist, but Marxism is a very pro-individual freedom philosophy. And the USSR was not that.
That sounds like spin, but for the sake of continuing the conversation, okay.
I mean, that's fair, but I mean, like, I could say that it's spin to say that democratic republics are about freedom. I could say that what they're actually about is freedom for people with money, and that if you don't have money, get fucked.
Well, it's about a certain basic set of freedoms that everyone does have that does apply to everybody, unless like there's certain circumstances where they get compromised or removed, like the crime or so,
yeah, sure.
But, so that kind of freedom, I think. So it depends on like how you're framing freedom, and then what metrics you're going to use.
Well, I mean, as a Marxist, I would label it as individual and collective freedom, as in both positive and negative freedoms are important in a society. I don't think that one is more important than the other, but I think that they are both sort of like intertwined. Like
I
if
think
you,
we have a good balance here.
I think we have a balance. I'm not. I mean, this is just my personal.
You're fussier than I am, though. Like for me, good enough is good for me, and for you, if it's not
Better.
like perfect utopian quality, then it's horrible and harming everybody.
I mean, I don't think that. I think that like I think that America is better than, most other countries. But just because something is good enough doesn't mean that it's that we should be like, okay, well, we're done. Not gonna ever, you know, strive for anything better. I as an American, I think we can do fucking anything we put our minds to. I'm very pro America. I'm very
Yeah, I think we
America
can
first in that.
too.
Yeah,
That's why I'm disappointed in the candidates for this election, because I think
I'm
this
too.
was
Yeah,
an opportunity for both parties to show that they can do
to put their best
something
foot
better
forward.
if they
Yeah.
all put their minds to it, and it didn't happen on either side.
It didn't. I mean, you might be able to argue that the Republicans, quote unquote, tried. Though I'm not sure that because they actually had a primary, but I mean, their primary really didn't actually matter that much. You could say the Democrats were a little more honest about it because they just didn't even have a primary,
Yeah,
basically.
which that's the norm for an incumbent anyway,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah. I think that's silly. That's a bad norm.
still,
Um,
I think I don't know. I'm just not happy with either one. I think
no,
there were
I'm not
better
either.
options on both sides.
Yeah.
So
Oh, there were. I mean, as far as like on the Democrat side, basically not any option, but most of the
I
options.
agree that we can do anything if we put our collective will to it, but that collective
Mhm.
will is not always there
Yes, no, I agree.
to be harnessed.
No, I agree actually. And I think that's one of the things that I try and do is when I talk about these things and when I criticize America, I'm not criticizing. I'm not like an American diabolist, right? I don't think like, ah, yes, America, everything America does is bad. I'm critical of us because I think we can do better. Um,
But what
the
does that help? If you think we could do better, just go out and do it and like lead the way for the rest of us. But don't scold us for not living up to
do you,
something that you yourself are not even
do you
doing.
think do you think I'm scolding people?
Yeah, it does. It can come across that way.
Well, I apologize if I come across as scolding, especially scolding individuals.
It, it
I
it's
don't
it's
mean
just
to.
like fundamentally the act of even doing it, trying to do it in the first place.
What you mean
It's
the
like
act?
everybody at a party enjoying themselves, and you're like, "Oh, did you know that plastic cup you're drinking out of is bad for the environment?" Like it's just a buzzkill.
Well, I mean that's why I don't do that at parties. But not everything is a
Well,
party.
take that same ethos and take it like
Well,
apply
but
it to
would
different
you would
social
you would
circles.
you would you agree that not every social interaction is a party?
For me, yeah, sure. There's a few that may not, but for the most part, they're the same dynamic, more or less the same dynamic. Like if
I
you
mean,
like as far as if you want to achieve positive results, and
but I mean by that
that's
by that
that's why like business people take people out to lunch when they're making deals, because they're putting them at ease, they're putting food in their belly,
sure,
like
but
they're
by
giving
that by
them that
that metric we
comfort
can't
and
have any.
hospitality, relaxing them. So if you want
But there,
people to change the behavior, approaching it as though it's a party interaction to me is probably your
it's it
best
seems it seems
chance.
like it seems like you're saying that we shouldn't ever have serious conversations. Is that what you are saying?
You just
Or
hear
can
the oddest
no, I'm
things
I'm
in what
just
I
I'm just
say.
saying.
Like me of all people don't think you should have serious conversations.
Well, I mean, I would say that if somebody brings up a serious conversation at a party, that probably will be a buzzkill. And if you're saying that we should treat many of our
And it's
interactions,
not it's not the depth or levity of the conversation, it's the approach. And sometimes part of the approach is just raising the issue at all.
and you think that there are some issues that we should never ever talk about, or do you think it's
No, I
just like
think you should talk about the issue
okay?
you want, and I've never stopped you.
Well,
I'm
I'm
just
saying like,
I'm
do you
just
think?
I'm like troubleshooting the strategy, like the goal
Yeah.
in expressing it, and then trying to help you troubleshoot
Well, yeah.
ways
No,
you
no, no,
can
no, no.
improve
Yeah, I
that goal, like
agree.
your
And
attempts
I'm
to reach that
sorry.
goal.
Yeah, my sorry. I should rephrase that. So do you think that it would be a better strategy to never bring up any of these issues?
No, and here's where the difficulty comes in, because
Mm-hmm.
I can't even do this myself, but some of it is like being aware of when to approach it and the effect, like kind of read the room type of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not even advice I could take myself.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I understand what
But
you're
I
saying.
like we even like watching it from a third party perspective, I could
Mhm.
see the effects. But when I'm in it, when I'm the one expressing, I don't have a way to tell.
Sure. So, do you think that like okay, so you would agree with me that it's fine to bring up ways that, we as America, I'm using the royal we, could improve. It's fine to have those conversations. It's just about um
Yeah, and to me, just for me personally, what helps the most is the more specific, the better. Like, not we need to
yeah,
reform or defund the police, but look, in this particular police department, they encountered this issue, and these are some of
yeah,
the strategies that they have for resolving it. Let's talk about some policy solutions that might fix the problem. That kind of stuff
yeah.
is where
I
I
mean,
have the most success.
I mean, for what it's worth, I try to I try to do that as much as I can. Like, I mean, in the police thing, I know there's a lot of people who, and me myself, I'll even say like, I'll even have said like, fuck cops. Um, but like the real, when we getting down to like the brass tacks, right? Like, I'll talk about, hey, I think that we should be actually giving, there should be a longer, police should be trained for longer. Police should have to go through much more de-escalation training. We should probably have more police officers who are social workers.
Yeah, it
Um,
does feel this way. In fact, I was going to say that when this conversation started,
oh yeah.
that
Well, I mean,
as
it's not
long
a
as he's
trap.
not trying to lead me into a trap, but I
Well,
left it out.
it's not a
Thinking, and
trap.
by the
It's a
way, I willed to leave it out. Like I intentionally made the
yes.
choice to leave it out for all of you
Yeah.
non-free willers, and I just let the conversation go. But I was
It,
thinking the
it's
same thing. But
it's not
I
so
was
much
smelling a trap.
about a trap. I mean, it's not so much a trap as it is about
But
like
I know
Socratic
his pattern
dialogue.
because we've had enough of these conversations. So
Yeah.
there's always little like
Well, for what it's worth,
pitfalls and detours.
I a lot of my like conversational strategies are things that I have learned from things like Socratic dialogue.
Which I
Like
love. I'm
no,
good
I'm
at.
yeah.
Like I
That
can do that. I think
that
that's
was my
one
thing. I wasn't
reason that we are successful in during the times we are.
yeah, I wasn't attempting to lead you into a trap, but more so I
Wait,
was
hang
trying.
on. This is an emergency. I'm sorry to silence you. This is an emergency. Chris, what do you have on?
It's a wife beater.
Oh my god. I, I don't know if I want it. I don't know if I want to like pretend like I don't know you in public anymore. It's having such a complex reaction in me. Let me see it again.
No, I
It
like it.
needs something up here though, like a jewelry or a chain,
Yeah,
a
you
bling,
do
Yeah,
need
I didn't put my
you do need
necklace
a necklace.
on.
an amulet. I have a little pentagram, but not there. I'm this is good. We like to push boundaries here, innovate and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, I'm gonna
If it was
roll with it.
if it felt like I was like trying to lead you into a trap, I probably need to
No, it was just
reframe it.
interesting that I had the sense on my own, as I often do in our conversation, and then somebody's articulating the very same thing, even though I didn't
Yeah.
say anything
Yeah.
about it. That, like
Yeah,
when
no
those
no no.
little like that happens a lot where because I don't. Someone told me once, and they gave me really good advice. They're like, if you're thinking it, you should say it because somebody else is thinking it too, and you won't know unless you say it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I do say it, but on the rare
Yeah.
times I don't, I think of that,
Hmm.
and I'm like, I should still say it just in case there's somebody out there thinking it.
They're
And I
thinking
held
it.
back today, and there was
Yeah.
somebody out there thinking the same thing.
Yeah. And my point was more because like that's not like a big it's not a gotcha, right? Like even if like it had worked, it wouldn't have been a gotcha. It's more of a thing to
I
prompt
personally
thought.
take Lib at good faith, and I think
And I
he's
appreciate that.
just same with Denizen. I
Yeah.
think both of them are sincerely trying to have a conversation about the topics that interest them.
Yeah.
So
Because like
I don't think
yeah.
they're intentionally trying to
Yeah.
like
My more thing is not to like own the liberal whatever.
sometimes Andrew Wilson will use that
Mm,
tactic where he
yeah.
pretends to be interested in the topic, but he's really just trying to
Yeah.
maneuver you play. I don't feel the same way about Lib or Denizen
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. The my Socratic dialogue this morning was more about, I guess, explaining how I could be a Marxist and yet not support places like the USSR.
Which I never associated that with U.S. Marxist to begin. Like when I'm talking Marxism or hear that somebody's a Marxist, I never think about the USSR at all. Really, I just
okay. Well, I appreciate
have
that.
them in a certain category, like a philosophical or ideological category.
Yeah.
And they're usually consistent with that, whether they support the USSR or not. So I don't have a necessary association with
Yeah.
USSR when I hear Marxism.
I know a lot of people do, and I mean, people on this panel do. I mean, hell, just take my existence on this panel. Every time I mention, oh, I'm a communist, I'm a Marxist, the immediate thing is you support the USSR, which I understand.
I don't.
No,
Maybe I'm just not paying
not from
attention.
you.
I don't
Yeah.
remember a lot of that, but at some of that, you do that for effect. You've admitted yourself, the commie,
I mean,
social, anarch
to
type
to
stuff.
to a degree. However, like part of it is just that I think, especially in America, people associate communism solely with the USSR. That there's no
Oh,
even if
I
you
think of Vietnam, personally myself, and like Eastern Europe.
I mean, actually, Vietnam is probably closer. I still not huge fan of Vietnam, any variation of their governments, but um, I do agree that I think Vietnam, at the very least, they were more communist than the USSR. Um, they did socialism more than the USSR did. Yeah, I mean,
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, he does that. That he do.
well, I mean, also I'm willing to talk to Jeff, which I can imagine that there are probably many people on my side of the aisle who wouldn't be, and I think that's stupid. Uh, but
I
by
don't
that
know
same,
what the disconnect is because I've talked with you, I've talked with Ro, and I've talked with a few more leftists, and I can only think it comes down to something like moral foundations. We're just valuing
yeah,
different things, which leads us to emphasize different parts of the issue,
yeah.
and et cetera, et cetera. But philosophically, I can't explain the disconnect because
I
it
think
seems like we should all be able to understand each other.
I,
Hey,
I think
Rag.
hey, I think there's a couple things because I also find this with people on the far right, or just people on the right. There's like a contingent of them on the right who won't like have conversations with me. Not that they won't talk to me, but they won't have conversations with me. If you kind of understand the distinction I'm trying to pull from that.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that I understand that.
and I think it really does come down to, I think, sort of like moral foundations. Like, I think conversation is it's not just a good thing. I think it's necessary to have a firm moral foundation. I think having conversations with people who you don't necessarily agree with is necessary for that. And part of my belief of that stems from the fact that I began, sort of like my conscious life as being more right leaning. I arrived. I didn't arrive. I didn't like. I wasn't morally lucky, right? Like, I didn't arrive at what I believe now is moral just by virtue of existing. The current. I had to fight. I had to wrestle with ideas and with conversations to arrive at the moral foundations that I currently have. And I think that's what I think allows me to
But
or
the point of the moral foundations is they're like innate and evolutionary. It's not, we don't necessarily choose them.
well, not always,
And
but
some
I
of
think
us are just like biased more toward fairness and compassion and caring, and some of us are biased more toward merit and competition
I
and
don't think
proportionality.
I don't think that's an innate thing. I think
Well,
that's very
the
much
hate.
nature.
I think Jonathan Haidt's theory is that it is the
Sure.
moral foundations theory.
I don't I'm not a I don't
So when I say like the disconnect, I can only imagine it's something like moral foundation. I'm talking about it like some kind of innate temperament that causes us to just be sensitive to different parts of the issue, or maybe generational. Like maybe if I were your age, I would see it more like you, but I have like a whole chunk of experiences intervening
but I think
caused me to like have a different perspective, or
actually
like broaden the perspective.
the generational thing actually supports my point really well, which is that it is almost entirely a nature thing, or like a nurture thing rather. Sorry, that it's entirely due to the material conditions rather than the innate
What
things.
would be the what would be the difference? Like the few differences I've been able to spot is there was like a parenting change, and you got the safetyism and the helicopter parenting in the 90s, and the internet. Like they stopped playing outside and they started growing up in front of screens more with less in-person socialization.
I think so. I think that the major thing is, are you familiar with the phrase "the end of history"?
Is that Fukuyama?
Yes.
I'm familiar with it, but I don't know
It's the
the
idea that like
concept enough
yeah,
to explain it.
basically after the fall of the USSR, that basically um, we're kind of always, or it's more about like history is kind of always on this upwards trend, that always as time moves along, we are
Well,
necessarily
that's
improving.
a belief or a faith.
No,
I don't believe in a like necessarily
yeah.
a pattern to history. Like
Mhm,
there may be observable patterns, but I don't
yeah.
necessarily believe there's an innate process to history. And
No, I
so
agree.
even that's a form of
But I think
belief.
the zeitgeist, especially in the Western world, around the late '80s and into the '90s, was kind of this idea that
Oh, because we were coming up to the millennium.
yes,
And I
there was
remember what Kurzweil too was doing some
yeah.
futurism stuff.
Yes, yeah, and so like that kind of thing. But then with my generation, that thing that was kind of broken, right? Like my generation was the first generation, um,
So
or
you
was
were after 2000?
no, I was born in 1996, but I grew up in the 2000s,
Okay.
which is when that sort of that framework, that zeitgeist kind of
Start
shattered.
to collapse.
Yeah, because you had 9/11, the Iraq
Yeah, I
War,
was thinking of 9/11
Afghanistan.
the other
Yeah,
day and the effects on the previous generations that I
and
would not have anticipated at the time.
that's like things like 9/11 and the Iraq War really have impacted my generation. Like I'll have conversations with people my age about the Iraq War, because I think many of us have a understand. We weren't around, like we weren't like conscious, I guess, or active politically when the Iraq War was going on, but we can look back and we can see. So we can sort of see with sort of in 2020 vision what happened there, and we can see all of the flaws and mistakes that led to the horrors of it. And that kind of, at least for me and people I know, sort of opened our eyes to the idea that, hey, look, this idea of like the end of history, that like, oh, it's just going to keep getting better. Like, that's not true. Things only get better when you work for them to get better.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
knew that. That
well, but
I,
that's a common
like
zeitgeist of.
even growing up in the history zeitgeist, I
Mhm.
knew that. I wouldn't think that we wouldn't have to bring it about ourselves.
But yeah, and then you have sort of this, and you combine that with this idea of like, or this disillusionment with our political system.
Well,
Um,
that's the one I don't understand. Maybe I just have more experience using it, but it's the same system I've grown up with, and
well,
I haven't seen it.
there have been a number of changes to the system since you were younger. For instance, money is much more influential directly in politics than it has
Yeah,
been in the
there
past.
is that, but that's not the system itself or the parts of it
What's a
that
part of the
we're able
system?
to use. That's the people, individuals using the system.
Well, yeah, but that had the Citizens United decision, the influx of the influence of money in politics
And
has.
I was not in support of Citizens United. I thought it was a
No, no,
bad
no, no, no. I
decision
know.
at the
Yeah,
time, and I still do.
I was
I
about to say.
think
I
that
think.
was one of their blunders.
Yeah, no, 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 no. I mean, I have. There are very few people, I think, average people who know what Citizens United is, who are pro Citizens United. It's very, very much so. Like
Really? I don't think I've ever met anybody that was actually pro Citizens United. But
yeah,
I mean,
well, I mean,
I'm not sure. I'm not saying you're wrong. That's crazy. That's crazy to me because even
I think
people
that's what
like
he's saying. I think we all agree.
Yeah, like I'm saying, like there are definitely people who liked Citizens United ergo Citizens United got passed. But like those kinds of people aren't
Well,
like
it was a
your
court
average
ruling.
person. Well, yes, but like the court ruling was like there were people who supported Citizens United, but the people who supported Citizens United weren't like, it wasn't like your average Joe on the street was like, whoa, yeah, money in politics, that sounds fantastic. It was
It was the people with the money.
yes, yeah.
The people with the money that wanted to influence politics that were for it. Yeah.
And necessarily after Citizens United, people with money have been able to influence politics more. They have even more power within our political system.
Yeah, I think that might be like a what's the opposite of improvement or progress? That might be like one of the wrong turns that we've taken that hopefully will.
And then
isn't it crazy how like we're talking about generational differences, how generations themselves have become more rapidly evolving things. Like me and Jeff are aligned on a lot of things because of like our age similarity. But I'm 10 years apart from Jeff. But there's still a difference between like where Jeff is and where I was, and then there's 15 years between me and you. And there's a big difference between like where you are and I am. Whereas the generation used to be like 40 years, something like that. Yeah,
I think that has to do with the internet.
Yeah, no, it totally does. It does. It absolutely, technology and everything has accelerated things so much. There's such a big difference between me and like my daughter, and then and then my other daughter, my new Juniper Scott is completely gonna have a completely different outlook than Clover will. It's just like I can't. It's like it's getting to the point where
she's
like
gonna have a YouTube outlook.
Yeah, it's gonna be like every 5 it's gonna be like every 5 years it's gonna be, instead of like we're gonna start defining generations by like groups of like 5 years instead of like 40.
Yeah, and it's just
because they adapt so like the technology adapts so fast.
The technology changes so fast. I mean, the difference between like when I was growing up, the technology from when I was growing up and I was born in 81. Technology I grew up around in 81, I have seen everything from the inception of personal computers becoming common to like video games in 81 were like Atari 2600 in television, and cell phones, and I mean like every little like thing, the internet, all those things have all come along in my lifetime. I mean, I've seen all that stuff happen. And like the difference between like the world then, the world now, is just like it's so stark.
Yeah,
it's such a stark difference.
And then I think a lot of us sort of have become disillusioned by the aftermath of 2008. Like the fact that a huge financial crisis happened directly caused by bad actors within the system, and then none of those bad actors got punished, and then a bunch of people got fucked over. And then you have like the failure of the Occupy movement, the failure of so many movements.
Well, I'm not surprised Occupy failed because
I'm not either.
It was pretty pitiful to begin with. Like,
I mean,
and it got co-opted by a bunch of assholes too.
Yeah, and I think like that has kind of opened up a lot of people in my generation.
I definitely understand the 2008 thing because I felt the same way. But how did I recover my faith? I'm trying to think it through myself because part of it was Obama, and I voted for Obama.
Well, I mean, and again,
that was like one of my first letdowns or disappointments was when the bankers got the bailout.
So I think for people, in my generation, and at least me, I never voted for Obama. I wasn't old enough to. However, obviously, I could see the effects, and especially looking back, I can see everything. You can see everything with 20/20 vision when you look back, right? So it's like, but looking back, I can look at Obama and be horribly disappointed because there was potential. Like Obama, I mean, if you look at a lot of his early in his first campaign, you look at his early campaign, and he was almost like Bernie Sanders-esque, in the type of hope.
Even though when you really looked into it, like, cause I was an Obama fan until I really started like trying to listen to his rhetoric. I stopped supporting Obama whenever, like, I was actually a really big Obama supporter early on, until as it got closer and closer to the election, I started noticing more and more that his rhetoric had very little substance to it. That it was literally like hope and change, like as the meme became.
Yeah.
It was like, when people start saying like the hopey changey thing, stuff like that.
Yeah, but it was hope and change from like all those years of Republican and George Bush. And
yeah, I know, but at the same time, he had very few policy prescriptions.
Oh, when you actually listen to the policies,
when you actually listen to what he was actually talking, he didn't have anything. He didn't have to back up his like hope and change stuff. He didn't actually talk about anything real that he was going to do. It was like a bunch of like vague prescriptions of like, we're just going to make things better kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, so like I stopped supporting Obama around that time. That's actually when I became a Ron Paul supporter because of that.
And then you had and then you had people like my age, in some of our first elections would have been 2016, and with Bernie Sanders, and then a lot of people I know, I was disillusioned from politics when Bernie Sanders got fucked over by the Democratic Party.
And then when Bernie Sanders became a bootlicking Democrat, yeah.
Well,
that was a.
This is a good point about Obama, because I'm a big fan of expanded Medicaid, and so regardless of what happened with the bank, maybe it's stuff like that. Maybe regardless of the banking thing, we managed to get the Affordable Care Act, etc.
Well,
and he did get gay marriage passed, even though he wasn't for it when he got elected.
Yeah. Which, I mean, like, I'll give him credit that he got a version of the ACA through, even if the initial one wasn't ideal. Getting something through was better than nothing. But like it's kind of like the idea of like, if he had been,
I already know nothing's going to be good enough for you ever. Like your standards of how the government should work, probably
did you think
exceeds how it's ever worked before.
Did you think the initial version of the ACA was good?
I didn't read the versions. Don't ask me that.
The initial version of the ACA fined people for not having health care.
Yeah, it is.
That was my
I remember that discussion.
It was I remember very much, like, I remember whenever I first read it, and I was like, so this is a little bit like saying we're going to eradicate homelessness by making it illegal.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Won't be any more homeless people on the street, because if you don't have a home, you got to go to jail.
Yes.
So it's a little bit like that. Like, we're going to eradicate people. We're going to eradicate the problem with people not having health care. We're making it illegal not to have health care. And so, like, therefore, if you can't afford it, then you get fined for it. And that was a terrible, terrible concept.
Though, funny story. Did you know that provision was actually not initially in? That provision was
added by
the Republicans. Yes.
Because I know. Absolutely. That's absolutely Republicans' fault.
You get taxed. You get fined if you don't have.
And then they're the ones that complained about it for years, and then got it taken out, like later on, like in either in his second term or in Trump's administration or whatever. That was like one of the first things that got changed, but that was totally a Republican concept that they took that they suddenly disowned as soon as like it went through, and they used it as a way to like to bash the whole thing in the first place. I mean, it was pathetic on both sides. I mean,
yeah. And I mean that conversation, understanding that, has disillusioned so many people. Well, yeah, sure, Chuck, it is a poison pill, but it was a poison pill that was injected by Republicans, and then Republicans called it a poison pill. So,
oh my God, you're already
square that.
The giant pyramid, what is that?
Oh, it's in Memphis. The pyramid in Tennessee. It's it used to be where the Grizzlies would play basketball, but now it's a Bass Pro.
Yeah.
Funny story. I've lived in Memphis. I lived in Memphis most of my life, and
wow.
I have never been inside the pyramid after it became a Bass Pro. I went in once when I was younger for a basketball game, when it was still a basketball theater, and then I went in once when it was sort of in between, when it was like they were doing a bunch of refurbishments for it to become a Bass Pro. Me and my buddies in high school, we snuck in and we climbed up to the very top and we dropped a milk jug down onto and then we got the fuck out of there because then security got called.
How do you feel about yourself looking back?
I mean,
I'm glad you told us that story for when you get too self-righteous.
I was a stupid
an anarch and everything, but
yeah, I was a dumb kid thing to do. Yeah, I did dumb things as a kid too. I can't.
Oh, we did too. That's why I didn't really have anything to say. Yeah, I was trying to criticize, but I'm like, you need to keep.
But at the same time, when you think about it, you're like, yeah, but as a kid, I did some dumb shit too. Yeah,
I was 16, Jeff. Like, I do think that was very stupid.
Part of me's proud of. I'm like, he's an
it's kind of badass if you ask me. I mean, I'm kind of proud of it too. Like that's a ballsy thing to do.
That's hardly it.
I mean, I certainly. I mean, I've been in the Luxor, in Las Vegas, like, and I never even considered anything like that. That's of course I don't know how you do it at the Luxor. That would be pretty difficult to do, but But the Luxor is the only elevators that move at an angle or that move diagonally.
Oh, what do you call it? Lenticular, verticular, something elevator.
Yeah. They're the only elevators in the world that do that. Very strange.
Yeah, but
inclinators.
Okay.
Inclinators, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, no, I mean, kids do stupid stuff, and like I think there's I don't want to say like a grace period, but like there's things that kids do that I think is like they're just kid things. But I think the important thing is that kids don't do stupid shit that hurts people. Like I know some kids who have done and who do things that hurt people, and I don't think that's just kid shit. Like
define hurts people.
So I know kids who will like rob stores and stuff.
I know I have friends whose like little brothers and sisters have got picked up for shoplifting. So I do know that happens. But growing up, the kids that were doing that kind of stuff, I always saw the adults. Well, maybe not always, maybe not with things like school bullying, but stuff like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time there was accountability, and it was from the adults. Yeah. If it wasn't from law enforcement itself, it was from the parents, it was from the school. There was some kind of discipline.
And that's the important thing. Yeah.
Like very few people were trying to coddle and protect the kids from those kind of egregious actions.
No, I agree, and I think that that's like right and good. I mean, this leads on to like the shoplifting thing. I don't think shoplifting is like inherently immoral, but I do think that there are definitely variations.
Wait, why not? It's
so like for instance, right? Like
I never had the impulse to shoplift ever.
No, I never did either. But like, let's say
it felt wrong. It felt like stealing.
Yeah, no, it is stealing. However,
well then let me hear your moral justification for stealing.
Sure.
Why you think it's not wrong?
Yeah, if you're starving, I do not think that it is necessarily.
Other than the starving one, is there another one?
If you you need baby formula.
Like, because usually as a kid it was stuff like.
I mean, because that's I mean, which we talked about before. I am the one on this panel that has probably, I guess, shoplifted the most, probably, and it's because I shoplifted a lot of baby formula back in my day. So.
And the thing is, I don't think that it's I have trouble morally condemning things like that, which is why I would say that I don't think. Because
I don't feel the slightest bit bad about it, to be honest.
Because I care because in my like like my category of like
it's the evil capitalist is hurting the
no I do think that if you're starving you can hurt somebody by stealing from them.
Not the starving thing, because I'm willing to see that as a gray area, but things like Chris, when you stole the bag, the leather bag or whatever,
Right. Yeah. And like that.
I
No,
would
I didn't.
morally condemn
I
that,
felt.
and you
I
knew it
felt.
was wrong at the time, and you
I felt
wrestled
like
with
it
your
was. I
conscience
felt bad about that. I felt
Yeah.
bad about that.
No,
because it was wrong and condemnable.
and I would probably even agree.
Yeah.
But my point is that because of that, I can't say that I condemn all stealing in all circumstances. There are absolutely circumstances where I don't think that it's not.
I
maybe
guess
not.
that's true for anything if we want to just spend our time talking about edge cases all the time.
I mean,
but in
not
general,
anything.
I don't think stealing is good. Like, I don't have a moral argument for stealing.
Again, I think I can construct moral arguments for stealing, but like for instance, I don't think I can construct moral arguments for, let's say, rape. Right? Like, I don't think I can construct.
No, probably not. Well, unless like in BDSM and consensual and stuff like that. But outside of that, no, I don't
that's
think
consent.
I could either.
That's consensual non-consent, which I think is distinct from rape.
Yeah. But some people argue differently.
Oh, sure. Like, they're just wrong, though. I mean, they can be wrong, but someone.
Yeah.
Someone
I can't think of a single.
I have a hard time.
I can't think of a single justification for rape.
Yeah, no, I
cannot think of a single justification for rape. I can't. Even when I try and put myself like in like any kind of
violence, really, outside of self-defense at all.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, self-defense. I mean, self-defense is like, you know,
I mean, defense of your loved ones.
Yeah, if someone is attacking like me or my family, and like, you know, and if I don't own a gun, but if I did and I shot somebody that was attacking me and my family, I wouldn't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
However, you know, at the same time,
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, on its own, outside of that condition, yeah, it's automatically a big bad.
Denizen, I thought of something related to free. I thought of a few things related to free will. So are you ready to have that conversation?
I think Denizen's question is, what if the human race was going to end and she was the last woman on Earth? Would you then rape her, even if she didn't want to have sex with you? And I think that would still be immoral, even if the end of the human race.
Yeah, it would.
That's not a realistic.
And besides, it's not realistic, and it's also the fact that, okay, in that situation, if she really found you that revolting, she didn't see the value in trying to repopulate the human race, and I mean, what's to say like she's going to even carry that baby to term? Yeah. I mean, like there's no guarantee. Like, raping her isn't going to necessarily solve anything, and it's and therefore it's not. I don't think it's morally justifiable. I mean, it would be your duty to somehow like to you figure out how to woo her or something, or actually, you know, try to like actually make her fall in love with you or something like that could be a better option than that.
I mean,
I want to steer a little bit away from this particular conversation. Just keeping the channel. So
yeah.
I know we like to hit the spicy topics.
Yeah.
I mean, but what we're all saying is that there is no moral justification for rape under any circumstances.
Hey, Chuck.
Chris.
What's up, Chuck?
Yeah. Going back to your argument about stealing, go back to the other day when you was talking about when you got your house robbed.
Yeah.
And how that made you feel and everything.
Sure.
You don't think the people you're stealing from might feel the same way?
The grocery store that I took the baby formula from, no, I don't, because
I'm more worried about Lib than Chris, because I feel like Chris would feel better to have a conscience, and Lib seems like he really has much more of a tolerance for casual.
Oh no,
I don't think so at all. I think Lib would feel bad about it too. The bag.
That's not the impression I'm getting from just what he's put forth.
The bag I took from Target, I felt bad about. I felt bad, and I was shocked that I got away with it, and I was shocked that it even worked. I don't even know what I was thinking at the time. It was like this spur of the moment thing. I had intended just to put it down, but I had it on my shoulder the whole time. I've been walking around the store with it. And then I got to the checkout, not even thinking about it. And then, like, as I was getting through there, I realized, like, halfway through that I still had it on, but no one was saying anything. And so I was like, I wonder if they're going to say anything. And, like, you know, and it was like this really dumb thing to do. It was a completely asinine thing to do. Because, like, if I had gotten caught, they wouldn't have. I mean, it would have been a minor. It wouldn't have been a big enough charge to put me in jail.
And you failed.
Yeah, maybe so.
Actually,
Yeah, maybe so.
I do actually have an example of a time that I did temporarily steal. So I went to this game shop in Memphis, and it was the first time I had been there. Whatever. Anyways, I had gotten a drink from them, just like a soda or something, and they were busy at the time. And he was like, hey, look, just go sit, because he knew my friend, and he was like, hey, look, go take your drink. I'll just just come back up here after I'm done with this, and we'll do it. And it did actually just slip my mind. I completely forgot. And it was a 75 cents Coke. Okay, I couldn't sleep that night because I remembered that I didn't. And I went in the next day and I gave him the 75 cents for it. And he was like, oh, okay. I mean, I forgot about it too. So, no big deal. Like,
were you like that as a kid? Like,
yes.
is that conscience? Is that just something you came into the world with, or was it instilled in you? Because I'm the same way. I would have been the same way. Where does that come from?
I think I think that there's a part of it that is, so like the sort of instinctual part of it, the baseline of it is very innate. I think that's what you
like
wanted.
Not wanting to hurt others or being sensitive to the pain of others.
I think basically every human being is born with that. I think that's
no, they're not.
No,
child.
they are. Well,
Here to tell you.
sorry. Let me rephrase. People who don't have that part of their brain sort of like switched off.
Right, it's pathological, but it does exist. So
yes,
you
yes.
can't make the assumption that all
Sorry.
humans have it.
Sorry, I think the vast majority of humans are born with this, and I think this is due to our evolutionary history of like working together and being social creatures.
We're mammals and primates.
Well, we're social animals is the thing. I think if we had not been social animals, I don't think we would have achieved, like, we wouldn't be conscious in the way that we are now. But but like a lot of that guilt also is sort of nurture. A significant portion of that guilt is nurture as well. But that's good. That I think that's good. I think we should be,
because if you get people the right nurture, then you get the right results. But who gets to determine the right nurture? You do.
Well, yeah, but like me as in like every individual person has to.
Like when I was growing up, like probably me and Chris' generation, everybody, you got to raise your kid the way you saw fit. Like everybody got to. That was kind of like sacrosanct.
But there were
you didn't interfere with how somebody, you might not approve of the way they raised their kid, but they had the right to raise their kids how they saw fit. And now everybody thinks they know better how to raise each other's kids.
Well, no, because I think
shaming people and bullying people.
Even back then, I mean, shaming people happened back then. Let's not
to
like
the degree
pretend.
I see it today. Maybe, and part of that's probably social media. There's more vectors for shaming now.
Sure. I mean, would you not agree that like back then? I mean, for instance, we can both agree that like society has moved on in terms of like interracial marriage, but back in the 70s and 80s, there was definitely social people. If you were white, actually even if you were black, and your kid was in an interracial relationship, that could genuinely cause like social.
No. Not in the 80s, maybe the 70s.
Yeah, the 70s.
Even the 60s resolved that issue. They had that
I would say there was still
that was
some
already resolved
in this,
for American
in the
culture.
80s there was still some like weirdness to it. I would say like there was. I
remember the Jeffersons. They had the zebra couple, Tom and Hella Willis, and they'd call them zebra. George Jefferson always called them zebra. Let's go talk to the zebras downstairs. And everybody would laugh. The audience would laugh because it was a sitcom and nobody cared.
But that's more. That's like, these are like big like social changes, right? Like when I say me,
I don't know. I don't think the issue with interracial marriage is as big as you say. So maybe that's a bad example to use.
Well, it used to be,
but I do agree.
A long time ago.
Gay marriage would be a better one, but I do agree that there has been social progress or change in social attitudes.
Yes, but that's my point, is that it's always been sort of a society-wide thing that, yeah, sure, each individual, has the responsibility to teach their kids. However, the society as a whole, like people decide what is the socially acceptable thing, kind of like in a social manner. Like we don't individually decide, society decides, and then we can change the society, but like society decides what is and isn't that.
Yeah,
And
and
that's what I mean by
I think
me.
they decide regionally more than nationally. Like
Yeah, no,
the
absolutely.
nation's not going to decide for everybody collectively.
Absolutely.
We're just too
Interracial
big for
marriage
that and too diverse.
has been more of a problem in the past in the South than it was in many other areas.
The what
Though
has?
the interracial marriage thing has
Oh
been
yeah, but like I'm from Louisiana. That was one of the court cases.
Yeah.
It's resolved. Believe me, nobody
Yeah.
cares. Just like they don't care about gay marriage.
Yeah, no. I know. I'm not saying that it's still a problem today. It's much less of a problem. Like almost barely.
Yeah,
any.
There are people that have problems with it.
We've made like 99 point something percent progress, and you're in that like 0.01% that there's still a little bit here and there, which can be worked out on an individual level. And you have your microscope and your white glove. Look at all this racism. Look at all this interracial like hatred that they have, and the rest of society, it's invisible to because it's on such a small scale. We don't believe that most of America thinks that way. I guess we're more gracious or open with each other.
I was talking about how in the past we have had issues with
today.
No. I mean, there are people today, but it's not like a wide societal problem. Today.
Yeah, I agree. It's not. It's progress has been made.
I think it's hilarious. Some of the people who are freaking out and thinking that like they were going to somehow like repeal the interracial marriage, whatever like a law that allowed that at whatever point. Whenever like one of the people they thought was going to do was Clarence Thomas, who's married to a white woman.
Well, the reason why people were worried, the reason I was worried was because in his statement about it, he expressly brought up the Supreme Court ruling, or did he bring up the ruling or the law? I can't remember. He brought up one of them.
He did, but at this, I'm not convinced he wasn't kind of trolling a little bit. Like,
do you
think any state
and Supreme Court justices have a history of doing this?
If it were sent to the states, would any state repeal it?
I don't. Not currently, no. I don't think so.
I bet Supreme Court justices have a long history of kind of trolling in their decisions and their writings and stuff like that. There's a lot of like sarcastic bullshit in a lot of Supreme Court justice rulings. And I researched this for a Cracked article once, and I had no idea before that. And like I was blown away by some like the stuff that some of these judges like wrote. Supreme Court justices especially wrote in some of their opinions, either being for or against whatever the law might be, usually in the dissenting opinions and not in the ones that were pro something. But like in some of the dissents, like there are some snarky assholes, man. Like they really get like.
I mean, the reason they do that. The reason they do that, Chris, is so whoever out there sees it and will take it upon themselves to try to get that particular issue brought up to the Supreme Court level.
Yeah.
Wouldn't Congress just immediately pass a federal law too, protecting interracial marriage?
Which they could.
Wouldn't like 70 or 80% of Congress, including like Southern Republicans and Christian right-wing extremists, they would all vote yes for that, wouldn't they?
I'm actually not convinced that all of the Christian right-wing extremists would, because most of the people,
like 70% of the whole.
I was gonna say the individual people I know who are against interracial marriage are far-right Christians.
There's nobody else. There's certainly nobody on the left, unless they're like black supremacists or something like that.
Yeah, it would be considered bipartisan legislation.
There are some black supremacists that are
Chris wearing camo because I don't see him.
I walked away. I'll be back in a second. I'm getting a drink.
Pile of laundry.
I do actually think that we're a law like strictly like explicitly allowing interracial marriage to come to Congress. I do think that
how did this end up being the topic?
I don't know.
Denizen just brought this up. I do think that it would be uncontroversially.
I didn't bring up interracial marriage.
Well, you brought up this law thing, and I do agree that I think it would be uncontroversially passed. Now, I mean, well, it would be uncontroversially supported. Whether or not it would be passed, I'm not sure, because the Congress is full of a bunch of fucking babies. But like, that's kind of my point, is that, like,
I think like the interracial marriage, that would be such an issue for Congress to pretend like they actually govern, that they would actually write a law just on interracial marriage. It wouldn't have any, like, pork or hidden spending or other bullshit in it, that it, like the poison pills and none of that. It would literally just be a straight. Now it would be a legislative mess, but it would be just on the topic of interracial marriage, and that it would pass with an overwhelming
kind of like
majority.
the anti-lynching bill that came out like a little while back. Like it was just kind of like that, even though like murder's been illegal for a long time, so it really seemed unnecessary. It seemed pretty unnecessary to have a law against lynching.
Murder being illegal didn't really stop lynching, so
so now lynching being illegal going to stop lynching?
It is a form of murder. But it is a form of murder, so it seems unnecessary to have an extra law passed against lynching.
Now. It's unnecessary now, but
the same with hate crime.
It was unnecessary when they passed it. Is my point. When they passed it, it was completely. It was a completely superfluous, like political. Like, look at us, look how good we are. We're good guys. We're good.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Well, maybe it was to make the people feel better and safer.
Maybe
that's fine. I mean, I'm not saying it was. It maybe it had a good purpose, but it just still seemed like such like a let's pat ourselves on the back, kind of like Biden's big thing where he was gonna he was gonna let all these low level drug criminals out of jail, but then nobody actually qualified for it.
Yeah. No, that I mean, sure. Biden's a fucking cuck. Yeah, I agree.
You see I sent you the bag earlier.
Are you voting for him?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately,
you gotta remember, Biden
that's amazing.
One of the
I know a person who's voting for Biden.
Crime bill.
Do what, Chuck?
I said Biden was one of the big authors behind the big crime bill back during Clinton.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's the source of all the over jailing and everything we have. Him and Hillary Clinton and her super predators thing.
Him. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. That might be a point in his favor because I'm very on the fence.
I am not sure you would support the crime bill.
But no, he's the reason why we have so many people locked up for like minor drug offenses and
black people. How many black people does it lock up?
When did the crime bill pass?
It was in the
98.
Was it the 90s?
92.
I thought the one he did was in the early 90s or late 80s, but then Hillary and Bill and Hillary passed carried the tradition forward. In their
I think it was
the
time, early
94
when Biden struck.
Yeah,
was he under Clinton?
He was a
senator.
No, he was a
senator.
Oh,
he was one of the main people that wrote that bill, though.
Yeah,
which is why it's hilarious.
No, he was a major sponsor, co-sponsor of it, and he was one of the people who argued in favor of it more than any other representative.
Yeah, he was one of the loudest voices behind it, and it's hilarious how like he did that, and at the same time he had the balls to say that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. It's like.
That was very.
You don't know whether you're gonna vote for me, then you ain't black.
Sure. I mean, seriously. No, I'm not saying this in support of Trump, but I'm saying, but between Trump and Biden, who's the most black? Trump is way more black than Biden, culturally speaking. I mean,
I'll give you that.
I mean, he's got the gaudy bling. He's got all Trump is like a rapper without any rhythm. He's like
he's a rapper without any riz. There it is.
Yeah, there you go. He's a rapper without any riz. Well, I'll even say he's got some riz. He's got some.
He's got some kind of charisma that appeals to a huge.
I am not a Trump supporter, as I said many times, but I will give the guy credit for having riz.
Vote against.
I would encourage you to listen to Trump now. He is a lot less
No, he's bad. He's old. He slipped.
Is Trump going to win?
He slipped. He slipped his last 4 years by far. I mean, he's old as shit. They're old as shit. I mean,
this was such an opportunity for one of the parties to infuse the future into it.
Is Trump going to be president in 2024?
More than likely,
if he survives that far.
If he survives that long, yeah.
If he doesn't get bankrupted. If he doesn't get bankrupted, because remember,
he has 4 criminal trials.
I mean, he already has a nomination. He doesn't even need his own money this time.
I'm leaning slightly. If I had to,
so you're the outlier here, Jeff. Why do you
press no right now?
Why do you think? Why do you think he's not going to make it?
No, I don't think.
You think Biden's going to be president? He's going to lose to Biden.
Indictments. He has the financial woes. There's just so much against him. He's old.
I think
so. He's going to lose to Biden. You think?
Yeah. Well, I think Donald Trump in his current iteration would lose to a soggy piece of bread.
But people aren't judging him based. They're judging him on his previous term.
A lot of people are judging.
I thought you were leaning toward Liv, that he would be president.
I am. I do think he will.
No, I don't. I don't.
No,
think
Lib.
I don't think he will.
Oh, okay. So you think he's going to lose to Biden?
I think he's going to lose to Biden. Yeah.
No way.
I don't think he will.
It's a 50-50 split. That's amazing.
I don't think it will. It's because of the conversations I've had with people recently that are very anecdotal and very small sample sizes. But I've talked to so many people in public these days that have literally been. These random conversations I've had with people that are.
You see support.
Yeah, I see.
That's where you're getting your opinion from. What about you, Lib?
Out in the world, I have talked to numerous people now who I didn't prompt them on this or anything. People were just like, this is like conversations people were having.
Do you not see support for Trump, Lib, when you talk to people?
People at the resale shops and other things too. I've heard these same conversations. I overhear conversations, and people are actually out there talking about fuck Biden. I'm gonna vote for Trump. I don't give a fuck just because I don't want Biden in there, kind of shit.
Right. I think a lot of it
everywhere I go
is it against Biden. It's not for Trump.
It's not for Trump. It's against Biden.
So my thing is
what Biden ends up being too.
I've talked to a lot of people from like back home who were big like Trumpers, and they're kind of split into a couple different camps. There's the people who are like ideologically like aligned with the MAGA movement, right? And they're going to vote for Trump no matter what. Then you had like basically not people who before Trump were like sort of like non-political. They didn't really vote, didn't do anything. And then 2016 and 2020 got them really like, revved up to vote. And then you have, sort of like your neocon Republicans, and those latter two groups aren't really excited. Like either they're like the neocons who, like a lot of the neocons I know are like now Biden. They're voting for Biden. And the politically disengaged people, nothing about the Trump campaign this year has sort of like galvanized them to get out. And so because of this, and because we know that like Donald Trump, the support Donald Trump needs, either he needs to get all the Republican Party and independents, or the Democrats need to have a piss poor turnout. That's what Trump needs.
Neither side can win without independents.
No, the Democrats can win without independents. The Democrats voting base outnumbers the Republicans.
And you think the Democrats are going to have a good turnout?
I don't.
Okay, here's my thoughts on the Democrat turnout. Before October 7th, it was basically locked in. I thought Biden 100% was going to kick the shit out of Donald Trump. After the Biden administration's handling of the Israel-Gaza war, the line shifted. A lot of Democrats have been fucking outraged at Biden's handling of
a lot of centrists too, or some centrists.
Yes. And however, given that the Biden administration is starting to actually do things, you know.
But that's not the. I honestly don't think that's not the issue I hear from people. The thing that I keep hearing from people is that he hasn't done anything for the people that he said he was going to do. And that's the thing that people are mad about. They're not even mad about Israel Gaza. They're not even mad about that. I mean, like I'm not saying that that's not an issue.
The Gaza
is an
thing
issue.
being dangled, like
I'm
it's
more
put in
concerned
our
about
faces.
aid
That's the
and
reason.
vice
But
versa.
I feel
Well,
like the reason is just too much war. The prices are too high.
When I say
the economy
Democrat,
is nowhere near as good as they claim it is. It's actually kind of shitty. People are hurting. They don't really like their current situation overall.
I mean, sure, but like the problem is that those criticisms are due to a lack of good information, because Biden has done things, like objectively. He has done things that have helped Americans.
Like what?
Okay.
He forgave some student loans.
Oh, a lot of student loans. Oh my God. In fact, the
No, that's not helping Americans. I'm sorry, pal. That's putting that monkey on my back, on Jeff's back, on Chris, on everybody's back, getting a free ride.
And he
that was just one example.
I didn't think he actually he didn't get to really cancel that many.
I'm glad he's supporting Israel.
He did well. I mean, so right now he is supporting he is quote unquote supporting Israel. However, the issue.
What does quote unquote mean? You have some hidden intelligence that nobody else has, that you know that what he's saying.
He's paying lip service to our alliance with Israel.
No, it's not so much lip service.
Word, other than
no. I mean,
and he's giving them money.
He is supporting Israel in that he is giving them money. However, Biden and the Biden admin has been quite critical of, or at least more critical than you would expect them to be, of Israel's execution of.
And of Netanyahu, which is who hasn't? But you know who else they've been critical of? The Palestinian protesters.
I'm going to make a projection too for this year. You will not see a Biden-Trump debate.
No, you won't. Yeah,
no, there's no reason for either one.
They don't want either one of them on stage anymore.
Them,
like after Trump has slipped too much, and Biden is slipped way too much. You won't see them on debate. This will be a really unusual election. This is going to be an election without any debates between the two main candidates. Now, what will be interesting is the VP. If Trump actually picks a VP that's worth a damn. The VP debates could actually sway things, because Kamala is terrible at debates. And
I want to address this thing by Rick. I see it the opposite. I see the right as the ones trying to stay the course, and the left as the ones look at things like BLM and the Palestinian protest. Like, they're literally trying to burn the system down. So I think each side thinks that they're conserving and saving something important to them, and the other side is a threat to it.
It's important to note that
again, I think it comes down to values.
It's important to note the Palestinian
Palestinian
protests have primarily been about a ceasefire. There are definitely elements, especially on the far left, of people.
I don't want to get into that today, because we can go back when it first started, and you can see how subtly it's about ceasefire. And I don't want to start digging up like weeks and weeks of protest footage.
It's not our fight.
Yeah, it really isn't.
It's not our fight. That is, you know what, Chuck? You're right. Except it is our fight, because we're giving Israel bombs. So
okay, but leaving all that aside and getting back on the conversation we were on.
My point being that I think that Biden slightly ekes out over Trump in just the fact that Donald Trump has not done anything to gain new supporters, and in fact he has not done. He might have failed.
He hasn't doubled his black supporters and Latino supporters. The polling numbers haven't doubled since the last time you ran.
Polling numbers
have.
I saw something recently about,
he's polling ahead of Biden too, which that didn't happen last time either.
If Trump picks somebody like Larry Elder or something to be his VP,
it is important. It is worth noting that in 2016 the polling said that Hillary Clinton would blow out Donald Trump. So I do think it's worth noting that you should always take polls with a.
I'm not. I don't trust polls. I don't trust polls any.
Well, that's why I asked you. You don't believe that he's doubled his support among minority voters?
I do not believe that he has made any significant efforts to gain new supporters.
But the data itself, do you believe the data itself?
Like I'm
whether they're
the polling data, I don't
because
trust
he's made efforts or on their own or whatever. Do you believe his support is increasing?
His whole administration, and he's been campaigning since he became president the first time, and I think he's been campaigning for black voters since that day. So I don't understand the no significant effort. I think half of his administration was to garner support from black voters. Some of the a lot of the decisions he made were so that the next time he ran, he would get more black voters.
Even Chris pointed out the conversations he had out in public with the black community totally blew him away because they were for Trump.
Yeah,
Duchess, there were black people on the apprentice.
Yeah, Duchess. I wish I wasn't paying attention to politics, but I do. Unfortunately. Also, you can think that I'm being preachy, but I'm just
she's picking up on it too. That's what I was trying to.
I didn't
think he was being preachy.
I'm making declarative.
When I said not the party style approach, and maybe a different, more of a party style approach.
Like if you think saying declarative statements are preaching, then I guess I can't change your mind. But
no, it's not declarative statements. I'm not policing at that level. It's.
Well, that's the way the tone is interpreted, because there's some assuredness behind the statement. It's like,
well, yeah, I believe
then it's insert A, B, C, D. That
I believe the statements that I say. Yes.
All I can say for certain about this election is that Trump's choice of VP is probably the most important choice of VP that any president has ever made.
Yeah, which
in the history.
Oh, you mean because they'll probably die? Is that why?
Both of them. Both of them.
Both of them. That too. But I mean, in terms of the election, whoever Trump chooses a VP is going to actually. Is actually going to affect the election.
I don't know. He's according to his doctor, he's really healthy. He's got way more than 4 more years left before he starts to keel over.
I mean, I'm sure that people might think that, but old people be old people, and sometimes old people just die.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, he could die of a heart attack. My cousin was married to a firefighter. He died at 44. He was in the top health. He had a heart attack in his sleep. That's not my point. I'm saying the chances that he's actually going to die in the next 4 years
are pretty high.
Trump,
yes,
that Trump is going to die in the next 4 years.
When you get to the 70s and late 70s, especially especially if you're you have not been treating your body in a ideal manner. I do know people who are in their late 60s and early 70s who are very, very healthy and will probably live quite a long time because they've been, they're staying active, they're intellectually active, they're just
right. But you don't think he has a rigorous intellectual and physically challenging schedule running for the president of the United States?
So Donald Trump, I don't know if you are aware of this, but Donald Trump doesn't like reading. And not just he doesn't like reading. There is some speculation.
I don't like reading either.
That his reading abilities are not.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, it's okay that he's an idiot, but we're talking about dying from lack of intellectual rigor. So an Alzheimer's type premature death. I don't think that you can make that case for Trump. He may be a moron. I'm not going to say he's not a moron. I won't even. Don't even want to have that argument. He's still snappy, quick, witty, funny. Charismatic,
less so, but yes, he's still sharper than Biden.
That's not really saying much, though.
It's not saying much. But I mean, we're talking about this. This is an election that's going to be decided by this is going to be one of those elections that be decided by a hair here and there. I mean, it's not going to be.
Wait, y'all let me know when we get there. Y'all don't know. That's on the trip to Disneyland, like all the things you could do when you get there, and then half the rides are closed. It's raining. Y'all don't know what's
No, I don't know that Donald Trump's
is
going to
all
die.
anticipation.
I do think that like there is a danger of both of them that are really fucking old.
I would agree with that, but the most significant VP pick in the history of all elections, because of the extreme likelihood that both Donald Trump and Joe Biden will die over the next 4 years.
No, I'm talking about the outcome of the election. I'm saying that if Trump chooses the right person as VP,
right, it is an opportunity though. It's a golden opportunity.
There's a golden opportunity there for him to choose the right person for VP that
if he can find someone that could overcome his negatives,
and it can overcome his negatives, and also like that is decent enough at debate that they would be able to just like, you know, I mean, it would not be difficult for anyone to defeat Kamala in a debate.
Yeah, no,
but the right person against it, like I said, if he chose
like a Democrat, maybe like Bernie Sanders or something.
I'm thinking like Larry Elder. Like Larry Elder is a very articulate black. You know, he's very articulate and he's great at
debates. That'd be like if he picked, you know, well, who's the head of urban development?
Yeah, Donald
brain surgeon. I can't remember.
That guy. No, that guy.
Ben Carson.
Nobody. Yes, I don't think that's going to get him any favorability outside of where he already has it. You know,
that's the thing.
You know, Larry Elder is very smart. He's a very smart guy. He's very well read, and he would destroy Kamala in debates. And I'm saying like,
welcome Insomniac. By the way.
Hey, Duchess.
The big thing that
I want to insert some European into the panel, but keep talking.
Oh, good. Yeah.
European. Don't pee on my leg.
We're very international.
European.
Fucking Europeans, not even American.
What's the point of you? What's the point of you if you're not even American? Come on.
I do actually think I discussed this actually on with Leah on her panel a little bit, is that it's one thing that we as Americans don't really think about a lot, but people around the world kind of have an interest in who the president is. Not that I think that they should have a vote. That's not how our system works. I don't think that's how our system should work. But you know, our presidential election, hell, all of our elections are.
They do affect other countries a lot.
They affect other countries a lot.
Yes, sadly they do.
Yeah, they care about us.
Rome didn't cease to exist. It just changed names.
Because their politics don't affect us as much as our politics affect them.
Yeah, we're the top of the stack.
Our politics affect them in some cases more than their politics affect them.
The youngest country in like the entire history of countries, whatever the fuck I wanted to say. But you guys are definitely world leader when it comes to politics, and it's sorry to say it's retarded. No, especially when are the only people, because I asked it a couple of times in the chat, and I don't know because I'm European. Mm-hmm. Are the only two options Biden and Trump? Or are there any other candidates?
Well, to me, this is a perfect opportunity to run a third party. If somebody could pull it off this late.
I actually don't think that
unless that happens, and unless Trump somehow disqualifies himself,
Kennedy is still running
now and then. That will be the two choices.
Kennedy's running as a Democrat, though,
and you can write
no, he's independent.
And there's these little fringe candidates, so some of the votes will go to other, but nobody takes those seriously. So the two
I think that's going to be the most significant
chance are going to be Biden and Trump.
And that's
the most significant impact on the election will come from that, actually.
And that's the big thing.
Like the Ralph Nader equation.
That happened in Florida in 2000.
Yeah, because
Ross Perot did it too.
Back, right?
Ross Perot won the election for Clinton.
No, Trump's done. The Republican nominee is secured.
Yeah. The big thing is like our system is very, 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 very entrenched with two parties. Third parties, especially on a national level, effectively have no ability to win. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm saying practically they can't.
Because their policies aren't sound. Their thinking isn't sound.
That has nothing to do with it, Chuck.
Because of the electoral votes, right?
Well, it's our first past the post system that has, I think, more to do with that, which is that if you win the majority of a state, you win all of the state's electoral votes,
except for a few states.
Except for a few states.
You're basically confirming what I just said. It's about the electoral votes.
Well, yes, but it's about the way those votes are distributed. If, say, for instance, the electoral votes were assigned in proportion to the amount of vote that you won in that state, that would be a system in which a third party would have a much better chance.
It's weird because if you look like, and this is what like kind of fucks me up when I'm watching like the elections and everything. There's only two colors. It's red or blue.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no other color.
Well, you're Scandinavian, right?
No.
Oh.
No.
I misunderstood your accent. I didn't.
She's
sorry.
Hollandaise.
Yes. I'm Hollandaise. Yes.
Hollandaise.
Hollandaise sauce.
Oh, you're Dutch.
I'm from the Netherlands. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, most European systems,
because even Canada
have more parties. Yeah. No.
Dude, our political party, our political system is like a mess. Honestly,
oh,
I won't even lie. It's worse than you guys have at the moment.
That's saying something.
Are they all high?
No, we actually.
It might
we
be
have
an
Are you high? I'm jealous. No, we have a fallen government at the moment. Like they had to resign. What, a year ago?
Yeah, well,
because
you have kings and queens and shit.
You guys do coalition government.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wait, I want to hear what they resigned. What happened?
No, well, basically they fucked up because there was this whole affair that came to light where they basically were funneling money away, and they had to resign. But hold on, this is the interesting part. Even if they resign, they still have to stay on their post until there's a new cabinet.
Yeah,
but
the elections were in November. We're now almost in April, and they still haven't fucking made a decision.
That's that coalition style.
What happens?
Coalition sucks, honestly. Well, what happened is that the one party that they did not want to be the new, biggest party actually won by a massive landslide. It's not even funny anymore. And it's extreme right. Like very, very extreme right.
Oh, I saw that.
That's going on
what was his name?
Geert Wilders.
Yeah.
What
He's
does
like
extreme right
mean?
These days, like, what is that?
That's all over Europe. Actually,
like
what's
people
wild,
like people from 20 years ago.
What's wild is that people in they're the far right or the right wing in Europe has like co-opted American right wing.
Is it the
rhetoric.
Immigration? Is all the immigration?
Yeah, the immigration is definitely a big part of it. Definitely.
And wokeness.
No, I don't think wokeness.
Oh, in Holland it's not. Okay.
Part. No, not well.
I know in Hungary and Poland it is.
It definitely exists in Holland, but it's not big of a factor in like the political landscape. It's more like the immigration. The immigration is a mess. The fact that the IRS basically is so like what the fuck do you guys call it? Benefits. The benefits that we have over here are actually designed to make the people that are dependent on the benefits to make them more poor, to have them abide by more rules than the people that have like above like average income. It's so fucking retarded that they don't even know how to fix it.
Yeah, no, that's
we're heading
areas.
For a fucking massive. We're hitting a wall over here.
You're just going to be absorbed by the European Union. I told you Holland wasn't a real country to begin with.
No, it's not going to get swallowed up by the EU. Like
it'll become East Germany.
Well, they gave us New York City.
Don't you dare call me East German, okay? That is hurting my soul.
Did I get that kind of vision?
What the fuck?
Holland
the Dutch and the Germans. Ah, yes, the same countries. God.
Get rid of that fake language of yours too, which is just German. It's like someone was learning how to speak Korean.
Hey, they do good Dutch.
I lived in Germany for 6 years.
Say the Dutch and the Germans.
It's a whole different political spectrum.
Yeah, it's a real country. They have their own mystery
Everybody over there hates
their own
the
reality
Germans.
series.
Well, it's not as much that we hate the Germans. It's just we are polar opposites almost, and especially with the World War II, like, and definitely in my city, we were affected by the bombing the most.
Yeah.
So whenever you talk about German people in my city, it's just like you're getting the bombastic side eye. They're like, no, thank you, just no.
Also, there's a lot of like stereotypes. Like the stereotypes are like the Germans are like all these like uptight, like snooty, like workaholics, and like the Dutch are stereotypically
No, actually, that's not the stereotype.
Really?
No.
That's the stereotype I know. And then the Dutch are like super like chill.
No, Germans are nihilists and don't give a fuck about anything.
Right.
Maybe
we are more. We are like the way that I see it, because we're like the smallest country. That's not true. The smallest country is actually either Liechtenstein or Luxembourg.
Yeah.
But we're like one of the smallest
small
countries. Yeah, but we are like the barking chihuahua in Europe.
Oh,
I'm saying y'all should just like get together with Liechtenstein and Luxembourg and just
he's not from
become
Germany.
Europe part deux.
He's not from Germany or from Norway. So I mean, I guess he doesn't really. It's not really a valid conversation. But if Trump chose the Swedish chef as his VP, I'd vote for him.
Swedish chef. I actually like. Wouldn't it be funny if he took the VP to be Kanye West?
Oh Jesus, that would be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare. Like that debate between Kamala and Kanye would be worth the entire debacle. But at the same time, it would be a complete nightmare disaster. Yeah, I mean, that one debate. Honestly, that one debate would be worth the entire like 4 years that follow.
That's I think the only possible debate Kamala could win, and that's and that's only because Kanye West is so fucking insane that that overcomes her lack of charisma. Like everyone will just like side eye.
What? Why is that our choices?
I'm pretty like, and here's the thing: you guys were talking about like physical health and all that stuff, but isn't it more important to actually have someone as chief of command with their complete faculties, like their mental capacities, like completely in order?
Yeah,
totally.
Because right now it's pretty. I think it's
not in America. We don't really do.
Let her finish.
I mean,
let her finish.
I think it's very scary that you guys have someone in charge that can also just on a whim decide to, hey, let's just fire up NORAD and see what's going to happen, because that will be fun.
Well, that's why our politics matter more. It's all the thermonuclear weapons.
For what it's worth, that's not exactly how it goes. The Pentagon does have a significant amount of jurisdiction over things like that, and for what it's and our Pentagon, as many criticisms as many people like me and others have levied at it, is full of typically level-headed people.
Checks and balances.
Full of who?
Level-headed people.
Oh, okay.
Get the fuck out of here with that.
As far as more or less.
One man does not have the choice to push the button.
Yes.
I know that's not like actually.
It is. No, I
correct.
Yeah, I understand your issues, because like, I mean, when Donald Trump was president, he talked about nukes and nuking people more than presidents I think ought to. Just
nuke him.
I don't know. I think if I was president, I might mention it a few times. Just
broadly speaking, I think when governments who are nuclear powers,
when you get that suitcase that actually has like the codes in it and stuff like that, you have like the nuclear football.
No, it's called the football.
I thought the basketball. I called it the basketball. It's more fun. Basketball is very American.
It'd be real hard. It'd be real hard not to mention it. To be like, well, I could just like I got this little thing right here. Let's see what happens.
But isn't it possible for Biden to basically just hold a press conference and say like, yeah, we're going to war. Because I'm feeling
sort
like
of.
it.
No,
So
he
it has to be
cannot.
only Congress can authorize
Yeah,
war.
he can't authorize war, but he can authorize military actions, which admittedly
Limited military action,
well,
supposedly.
Obama pushed that
I
envelope
mean,
quite a
every
bit,
single
though.
war we've had in the last 40 years.
I was gonna
So
say every president has
limited to that.
pushed that envelope.
That's because Congress won't do their job.
I mean,
Sure.
not really. I do think
But it is still the state of things.
there's also a degree of like, I think presidents have been, in my estimation, overstepping their bounds in the kinds of military actions that we're allowing without the approval of Congress. I do think there's
No, Congress is deliberately abdicating that so they don't have to take the political responsibility for it.
Yep.
Sure.
And if they wanted to stop a war tomorrow, they could. They could all get together tonight and change all the funding to zero.
To see inside of people's minds.
Because if they wanted to stop the wars tonight, they would get together and turn all the funding to zero. The second half of my sentence.
It's not about the funding.
It's just actually interesting because you guys were just talking about it. Like the rest of the world is basically looking at the United States because you guys are the leading countries. Yeah. You also fund a lot of things over here, which Denizen has said to me like so many times that it actually hurts every time that I actually have to confirm it. But yes, it's true. Yeah. But look at what is happening right now with the Ukraine and Russia and everything, like the war in Israel and Palestine. Why is nobody actually doing something? Why aren't they just saying like, hey, you know what? This is it. Fuck you.
Because it serves their best interests.
Well, I mean, like
it serves their best interest to keep this going.
There are a lot of so with the Ukraine thing, it is more that we are defending a country that is being invaded, or we are supporting a country that is, we're not actually defending them, but we are supporting them.
What are you supporting? Which country are you? Do you think that you're supporting?
He's talking about Ukraine.
Ukraine.
But do you think the United States is actually supporting the Ukraine? Because the United States is actually supporting Russia.
not to the degree that we need to. No, we in fact, I think there is a argument to be made that our lack of full-throated support for Ukraine serves a purpose of keeping Russia engaged. Yeah. Keeps Russia engaged in a forever war, which politically benefits us because Russia is one of our geopolitical enemies, and having them engaged in a long, drawn-out conflict that is draining them of resources and manpower benefits us because it's weakening them.
Correct.
At the expense of Ukraine.
Yes, at the expense of Ukraine. Whereas we could just, plop down, $100 billion of stuff, give it to Ukraine, and help them actually win the war quickly.
Even with
that would defeat the purpose.
I don't even know that would actually win the war quickly. I mean, Ukraine is so tiny compared to Russia.
When I say quickly, what I mean is in like a matter of months rather than years.
Even then, I don't see a situation in which Ukraine wins that war.
Right.
No matter what.
I mean,
NATO also has been helping the Ukraine with a lot of stuff and basically just providing them ammunition and everything that you can think of.
Yeah,
but nothing is happening.
Europe stepped the fuck up, by the way. Europe is putting the United States to shame. In the
that's because Trump pushed them to step up.
Involved in World War II till later either.
Yeah.
It's because they're afraid NATO might not exist if they don't finally start paying a fraction of their share.
Yep.
Which I like is how it's being worded as showing the United States the fuck up, because now they're paying half of what they're supposed to be paying instead of a tenth of what they're supposed to be paying.
Not all of them. I mean, like for instance, Poland is supposed to be like what, at 5% military funding by like the end of 2027 or something like that, which by the way is fucking insane. For like a small European country to spend 5% of your budget on the military is like,
well, not in Poland, right?
No,
like
in Poland.
The reason why Poland is like that because it's Poland. They know what happens.
Yeah, that's for each country to determine, and I'm sure they have reasons.
But it's not supposed to be for each country to determine. That's not how a treaty works.
Yeah,
no. Hold on. NATO actually, they
do require 3%.
Yeah, they require the countries that are aligned with NATO to have as much percentage to help them.
Yeah,
I think
they have to have 3%.
We also got reprimanded, but I'm not sure like what the amount was.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
like
3%.
There's a lot of European countries that have been sort of like hovering just below 3%. Mostly because like, so the way European countries a lot of times they do their defense is like each country will like specialize in different kinds of sort of military engagements. So like, France, they focus on like their helicopter corps, and Germany focuses on their tank corps, and then together combined they form a military
Planet America.
Kind of, yeah. And like the big thing is just like making sure that all of these countries maintain that level of funding, which the Ukraine war has spurned a lot of these countries into action to actually dedicate a significant portion, because Russia invading Ukraine is honestly pretty bad for the rest of Europe too.
Well, Macron's about ready to throw his forces behind Ukraine.
Oh yeah, Macron's fucking France is ready to fucking get down and dirty. He's like I will not.
Which is a new one for France. Yeah.
Yeah. They've got okay. France doesn't have.
But France is always good at starting fights.
Yeah, but. No, they're not.
They're always willing to get in there. They don't like injustice. They're always like, "We're gonna kick your fucking ass." That's wrong. And then it's after they start the fight that they're like, "Oh, okay, maybe that wasn't such a good idea." Unless, of course, it's against the Vietnamese. Then they can last a few more decades.
I was about to say, let's not uncritically support France, considering all of the fucked up military actions they have done the world over.
You don't uncritically support anything. Really?
Well,
I don't think we should be defending Ukraine at all. I think Europe would be better off if Putin just took the water supply in the Black Sea and NATO kind of retreated a little bit. It would be better for everybody on planet Earth.
I don't know, Denizen. That sounds like a pretty cucked take. All right, I for one don't like dictators. So
not my problem. You live under a dictator too.
No, I don't.
Yeah, your president is absolutely a dictator. He blew up the pipeline too. He didn't ask Congress for that shit.
Very tolerable.
You can pretend the pipeline.
There has been evidence that the U.S. is what is.
He said he was going to do it before he did it.
The Nord Stream was fucking blown up by the U.S. Like, there's no denying it. It really happened.
These people who believe in the American political system, they're way too brainwashed.
Who is it? It's like Schellenberger. I think it was Schellenberger.
I'm brainwashed by what? My own experience.
Again, I'm not uncritically supportive of America, but you don't have to agree that America is like some perfect good guy to say, hey, yo,
maybe best place.
Maybe Russia, maybe Russia shouldn't be allowed to invade other countries. Maybe that's
no one should. It's not just Russia. No one should be allowed to.
You gotta stop him. It doesn't matter what should be.
You can't stop him. It's over. He's already done it. Yeah, he occupies the Donbass now.
Right.
That's why you kick them the fuck out.
The window of
Good luck with that, buddy.
Was in the first week when he actually started making the claims that he was gonna invade Ukraine and he was gonna invade the Donbass. That's when everybody was supposed to be like, hey, you know what, Putin, that's not going to happen because this and that shit.
Let's say Europe's been through this before a couple times where countries would be like, oh, I'll just invade this tiny little country and then I'll be fine. And then a year later they're like,
Poland.
oh, we'll invade.
That's all I need. I just need one little country, just one little country, man. Just like I just need a country up here.
But what's different about that and all the rest of history? Like,
nothing. It's just history repeats.
Well, the difference is that that was okay. So in the past, people thought it was acceptable to do. But today we don't think it's acceptable.
Some countries don't think, but that don't mean all the rest of the countries have to give up what they thought was
When did anybody think it was acceptable? The countries who are doing the invading think it's acceptable. The countries being invaded never thought it was okay.
Well, no. I think if you were to go back like 15, because if you were to go back like say 1500 years in Europe, I can imagine that even though, so say for instance, France probably didn't like it when England invaded them in the 100 Years' War. That didn't mean that France wasn't against them invading other countries, because France did invade other countries. You can oppose the invasion of yourself while being okay with your country invading other countries.
Yeah, that's colonialism. That's exactly what I just said. The invading countries are perfectly cool with it.
Sure, but what I'm saying is, like,
you're describing the vast majority of human history.
Yeah, sure, but
you're also describing two of the biggest colonialist. Is that a word?
Yeah, colonialist powers. Yeah,
right.
Sure. But the thing is, the thing that's changed today is we countries around the world have accepted the idea that invasion is not a legitimizing factor in
when you say countries,
land.
all of them haven't, right?
The majority of them have. That's what the UN is.
I don't see that much of a political change between.
That's actually
so
why
the ones that haven't.
But I mean, the UN is how old?
Countries have always done. They're the historical norm.
Yeah, if you're talking like the last 80 to 100 years, I think have been pretty politically consistent.
No, yeah, I mean, obviously, the political sort of ideal has been might makes right. However, today, the zeitgeist has changed, and people broadly, in many countries, people broadly do not accept that might makes right.
My point is, we're seeing two strata of civilization here. Like,
I mean, Russia doesn't even agree.
But the ones
that might makes right.
I don't really see it that way. I think the might makes right is like the fundamental law of nature, and human society has always kind of been politically opposed to that idea that we can surpass that by, appealing to our higher sensibilities.
I mean, not always. Like, for instance,
no. But I don't see there's no political change in the last 80 years on that regard when it comes to invading another country.
I am holding might makes right to a moral standard.
To the standard of a more advanced civilization instead of taking them on their own terms.
Well, considering
that's one of my criticisms that I've used
the world explicitly formed the UN so that we could stop this invading shit to solve problems.
That worked out well.
It doesn't always work. I mean,
did you think that was going to happen overnight, like forming the UN, and all of a sudden nobody invades anymore?
Well, no.
I think the people who formed the UN are some invading colonialist
Hang on, Jeff. Hey, I need to get with you on this, because this is. I'm trying to understand. Okay, so
some countries adopted a new ideal, and now they want all these other countries that didn't to live by it. So they formed the UN.
It is worth
to
noting.
Try to propagate this new ideal.
Yeah. It's worth noting, Jeff, that of the countries that are a part of that, Russia is one of those. So
so how does that get resolved within that body then?
Well, I mean, that body is first off not perfect. It's actually very, very imperfect, because countries like Russia, China, the United States, and Great Britain have.
But it was some countries that came together and said we're not going to invade anymore, and then one of them starts invading.
Yes.
And when they came together, did they set up policies for when that happen? If that happens?
Yeah, that's actually.
Well, we do a lot of invading too.
Well, yeah, sure we do. But we're
and that includes Canada and Australia as well.
So then, what is the purpose of the UN? It's not work. Whatever they came together
because what we've been doing. So the world has sanctioned Russia broadly. Many countries have sanctioned the ever-loving shit out of Russia.
I remember
is there any evidence any of that is working?
Yes. Would you?
But what about the UN? Why is it still
needed? Sorry.
Yeah, citation needed.
Citation.
I need citations of actually the sanctions that have been put on Russia actually working.
It seems to be working.
From doing the
in their favor.
Actively doing.
Yeah,
it seems to be working in their favor. In fact, with the way gas prices are.
So there's actually a number of ways in which it's been working. So of Russian military equipment, a lot of it, especially all of their modern equipment requires imports of foreign systems for their stuff to work. Like for instance, their newest tank, the T-14, relies super heavily on imported parts from Europe.
Isn't that why they are working together with China now?
Right.
Oh yes, because they're trying to change this. However,
Right.
China is not like some like full-throated supporter of Russia, because China is involved. Because China is involved in the world economy, and China doesn't.
Are you sure that China is not like heavily involved in like funding Russia? Because
I'm pretty sure
China
they are.
is,
Yeah.
No.
China is waging a war on Taiwan too right now.
Well, not really, not an actual war, but
not
they
really.
do have.
Oh no,
It's a proxy war the same way it is for us.
It's not a proxy war. They're not at war with Taiwan.
They are getting into battle positions.
They definitely want to invade it and take it over.
No, they definitely want to invade it, but like they're not at war with Taiwan.
They're getting into battle positions. It's taking time because they have to, like, China is pretty smart when it comes to, the art of war.
I mean,
but it's happening.
The Chinese
didn't they write that book?
The Chinese military, the modern Chinese military, is actually almost completely untested. They haven't. China hasn't been in a major military like engagement in over 50 years.
Other than the
which is kind of scary because we don't know how good they are.
No, they have.
Right.
They've had a bunch of they've had a bunch of border skirmishes, but they haven't like had major conflicts. So they're.
But that doesn't mean that they actually have been training. Like this
No.
is just,
But there's a difference.
The argument doesn't make sense because we haven't been in active war ourselves for over 80 years now. I don't even know how many.
40.
Years.
Yeah.
What 40? No, I mean Holland.
Yeah,
like,
Holland.
Yeah,
no, and that's
but we're still training and we're still like evolving as
training isn't the same thing as experience in an actual conflict. There's a big difference in those two things.
Battle tested is a thing for a reason.
Yes. And it's one of the it's a factor. I'm not saying that like China's
I'll
military
make sure
is
that
like.
I'll tell the Ministry of Defense over here that they don't have to do all the training anymore because it's just not helping. It's
No,
not
it's
war.
not.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not helping. It's that like it's not the same. It's literally isn't the same thing. It functionally is not the same thing as being in an actual conflict.
It's not the same thing, but you can definitely like
prepare. Yeah,
your battle stations. And
yes. But like
the more you train, the more you actually figure out what your weaknesses are.
Yeah.
That's why they train. That's why they do
absolutely.
all the exercises and everything.
Absolutely.
That's why our defense is actually working together with Finland and with Germany. We're working together with Germany for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
but we work together with other countries to actually fight.
Yeah,
no. Retarded, but
no. I understand.
All I know is that the Chinese trained their military like they trained their acrobats were fucked.
No. I'm not trying. And I apologize.
They're contortionists.
I'm not trying to discount the necessity of training. Training is necessary, but it is worth noting that like if China were to like, for instance, invade Taiwan, the United States would defend Taiwan easily. That's like, and if you're going up against,
I don't know. I don't know if they would. I don't know.
We absolutely would.
Why?
Well,
why?
Because of the ocean. The Strait of Taiwan.
No. So there's a number. There's a number of reasons why. So like the sea, that like sea route would absolutely be a big reason. But in addition, Taiwan is the world's leading producer in something to do with like computer chips.
Yep.
So like we would absolutely defend them. We already have like treaties that we will defend them. We have military bases over there. Like we will defend Taiwan if they're invaded. And I think
we are starting to
that is
those manufacturing processes.
That is a very bad scenario. If we can go into war with China, that is a bad scenario.
That's one of the reasons why
the United States has been quickly, since Trump took office, has been quickly moving toward moving away our manufacturing processes from Taiwan.
I mean, Yeah, Biden has been too. Like we do want to.
No, yeah, since Trump. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the thing is,
there's a corporate effort for that as well.
China's biggest thing is they don't want to interrupt global shipping. Okay, because as much as people might not really get this, but like China and America, their interests, at least economically, align almost perfectly.
Why? So okay, then the question that I have
citation
for you,
needed.
Well, exactly.
Well,
why would America
we're dependent on each other
from defending Taiwan?
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Geopolitical have more to gain to stand beside China.
Well, because like there's a bunch of reasons. There are a lot of reasons why we want to defend China or to defend Taiwan. But
chips. That was just in 2016. They already started the process of getting away from Taiwan and actually manufacturing it somewhere else. I think they actually went back to the United States, didn't they?
There's some initiatives to get our processor building back in the United States, and especially like if you consider if you refer to it as America, right? Because there's an effort to bring that back to Mexico as well.
The thing is, it's not that simple. Is the thing, like you can't just be like, oh, okay, we'll just build it here and then.
That's why
you kind of can actually.
Not really. But yeah, it is worth noting that we have attempted to diversify our sources of those kinds of technologies. But that doesn't like mean that Taiwan's no longer important. Taiwan is also a very important U.S. military base. The United States having military bases around the world is actually like kind of our thing, and it's basically it's important for
colonialist.
Yes, but it's not just important for us, it's actually important for the world. Because one of the things that the United States does is we are like we are the biggest defenders of global shipping.
Of what?
Global shipping.
Global shipping, yeah.
Yeah, because obviously we have a lot of interest in that. But the thing is, China also has a lot of interest in protecting global shipping.
It's their whole economy. Yeah,
yes.
their whole. I mean, their whole. If that's the reason why I've never been worried about China trying to directly invade the U.S. because it doesn't make a lot of sense because like China needs the U.S.
Yeah,
for their economy.
And China isn't going to do something that will literally provoke the United States into war.
I would actually argue that the United States needs China and not the other way around.
I think China
needs our money. They need the money that they get from us. However, it does not
mean
the
dollar isn't even that much worth at the moment.
Well, it's not so much about the dollar. It's about it's a large part about manufacturing. Which, by the way, the importance of China is going to be diminishing soon because India is actually becoming the new India is turning into what China was in the early 2000s. They've done a bunch of investing in their.
But India is like geopolitical. Jesus Christ, it's such a fucking hard word. Geopolitical, the opponent to the United States.
No,
not really.
They're more like British.
No, they hate the Chinese.
Yeah, that's the thing. India fucking hates China. And so as
it would make a great way for the United States to kind of peel back on its relationship with China and put pressure on it.
But the alliance with it's Russia, China, Brazil, and who else?
Yeah, what's it called?
BRICS.
BRICS.
Brazil, Russia, Iran, China, and
well, China's making big inroads into Africa.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, is it Somalia? Is it one of the African countries?
It's a bunch of them. They're doing a bunch of
South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran. The Emirates.
Yeah, they're basically doing what America does, and they're doing sort of a version of neocolonialism.
But it's the more macho version.
Look who owns the Panama
Canal. I mean, not really. I mean, they're doing it via money. America, we a lot of times did it via planning coups and invasions. China just
How do you know all this? What people?
Well, I mean, they admit to it.
Declassified CIA documents show that.
Past stuff, but right,
that's what I'm saying.
Suddenly, right now,
right? So they did it every single time throughout history, all the way up until the last thing that's ever been released. But they don't do it now.
Now we've shifted.
They stop now. This is we're right in the real time. Okay? This is the first time that media isn't lying about everything, and the CIA isn't doing any of this shit.
speculation.
Right now.
I was checking. That's it.
We have actually significantly shifted to doing more like soft power stuff, just because our experience, especially in the 21st century, has shown that the sort of like hard power, like going in with like your military, doesn't really work. We learned in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Good thing we have people like Joshua Jones.
We're literally doing it in Ukraine.
Power. Well, no, we're not. What?
Yes, we literally are doing it in Ukraine right now.
Okay, no. Okay, so what I'm saying is, okay, what are we doing right now?
Literally started with the color revolution in order to support the counterculture movement in Ukraine when Putin tried to, he tried to take over Ukraine with political means.
Then that's soft power. That's not hard power. That's soft power.
Okay, who cares? I'm talking about the CIA doing exactly what they have been doing in the past. We're literally doing it in Ukraine right now. But
are we doing it for our benefit in our own self-interest?
Well, I'm sure that the arms dealers and the people in the unchangeable, unelected state in the United States believe it's in their best interest.
We don't have evidence.
I don't think it's in my best interest.
The United States formed a color revolution. Also, like, God,
you don't believe in the administrative state, then you're just not paying attention to how the United States government works.
I do acknowledge the existence of an administrative bureaucracy.
Okay, so it's unchanged and unelected.
Driver's seat.
Does this have to deal with the octopus murders that we like?
Well, literally the CIA would be part of that administrative state, correct? By definition.
Murders, you mean like the last circle and shit like that?
Denizen. Okay, so I need to have like a really good heart-to-heart with you. Okay, like, what do you, when you say color revolution, what do you mean?
I mean, when the United States goes into another country and supports political dissidents in order to overthrow current political movements, similar, exactly like we did in Ukraine, similar to like we did in Iran, like we've been doing it.
We did Ukraine.
So
yes, admittedly so.
No.
Oh Jesus Christ! No evidence.
Zelensky.
We do like that around.
Once
always valued and appreciated.
If you have evidence that we have, please go ahead.
That the United States supported the civil war in Ukraine in 2008. There's no evidence that we did that with money. At the very least, out in the open, and then not only reportedly in the United States with special forces as well, including the training for the personnel and the military equipment that's being used right now in Ukraine.
First off, you're shifting the goalposts.
No, there's no shifting the goalposts. Just because whatever you're thinking in your head isn't exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the CIA using money, weapons, and influence to overthrow political.
And again, I'm going to ask some evidence for that, because like, I'm not saying it's impossible. We've done similar things in the past. But like,
I asked you about I needed citations about the whole Taiwan thing, and the only thing that you can come up with was microchips. That's why the United States is going to.
He just stated it. He just stated it. He didn't come up with any citations at all. But, I'll come up with some citations.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean,
post a link in the back.
No. You don't even have to post a link. What I'm saying is, tell me something that I can like Google, right? Because like, if I just Google,
I did. If I
just say, okay, if I Google CIA,
I just did. The fact that you don't recognize the terms that I'm using is. It's surprising.
Trying to communicate.
It has nothing.
The CIA support for the Orange Revolution in 2008 in Ukraine.
So
that's not specific enough for you. That doesn't ring any bells. You don't think you can Google that?
So first off, I know what a color revolution is. I wanted to make sure that like what you were talking about was a color revolution, because I've heard people call things color revolutions. The
Ukrainians called it one.
Okay, I don't care.
Okay, this talks about like it's a conspiracy theory.
Listen, bro, I don't know. Like, conspiracies are how things get done. You're a political baby if you don't know the conspiracies are how things get done.
The Orange Revolution was steered by the CIA.
And if you don't care what the Ukrainians called it, then I don't know what kind of conversation we're having. I think I might need to sit this one out for a while.
Just because the Ukrainians call it that doesn't mean it is that. Like, do you agree that like someone can call something and it not be that thing?
Yeah, like
no, yeah. So let me be more specific. I don't give a fuck whether or not it was a color revolution. I was using the term Orange Revolution because that's what it's called.
Yeah, that is what they call it. So that is what it's known as. It's the what's in question is
I'd be interested to have a conversation with you too about how they call things that they aren't, right?
That's what they said.
But that would seem like an entirely separate conversation from the one we're having, which is whether or not the CIA tries to influence governments around the world and lies about it on TV.
I don't even know if that's in dispute. Specifically,
it was a second ago. No, it was a second ago. I do agree. Yes, no, that's exactly what was up for dispute. So I'm going to need some evidence for that.
Or the Ukraine.
Oh, those are conspiracy theories. I don't believe in that stuff. These are literal quotes from me.
The link I looked up when I Googled it said it was a belief that the CIA was involved, but that leads me to believe that there's no evidence for it. Some people
no evidence. It's a belief because there's no evidence for it.
You have evidence.
So you looked into it at all?
In the back.
Yeah, go ahead and well, I just gave you what you can Google. He said he could Google it. You spend the next 48 hours Googling that and come back and tell me that there's no evidence for it.
Part of this issue,
more than just a belief.
Part of this issue, Denizen, is that there is a
because the CIA did not support the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, right? That's what you're saying. You don't believe it. It's just a conspiracy theory. Okay, I'm not interested in convincing you. I think you're politically a baby if you believe that.
I'm telling you what the Google told. The DuckDuckGo, actually, it's DuckDuckGo told me.
I'm not going by DuckDuckGo. I'm going based upon the fact that I was paying attention to what was happening during the time.
Google it.
I'm actually familiar with the events that took place, and I'm describing them from my perspective.
So Denizen, I'm actually also
you're sending the wrong person to do the job. So what does he write about, Frank?
Denizen, actually.
Well, then Frank, post the evidence and save us.
I know
the CIA has been involved with the Russian, like whatever the fuck you guys call it, the Orange Revolution or whatever. They have been involved.
That's what
they did the same thing to Russia and Afghanistan. Admittedly, already it's declassified.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm just asking.
My thing is, I have ever since the start of the Ukraine invasion, I have been sort of like I've known about and read and heard a lot about this, and part of the issue behind a lot of this is there is a significant amount of disinformation that is disseminated largely from Russia. That Russia, that's kind of their shtick, right? Is
right, but not the CIA.
Okay, I just asked the AI, and it has. I can give you all the answer.
The CIA obviously does disinformation too. However,
it's like the favorite thing of like anything that we don't want to believe is true that doesn't support our political leanings at this particular time is Russian disinformation.
No,
they obviously don't want the AI. So keep going.
Well, I don't think.
I'm gonna break this down for you real quick. Okay, I'm gonna say it declaratively as you
already obsolete.
So when Putin says that the CIA caused what happened in Ukraine, he's lying. When the CIA says that they did very little to cause it to happen outside of giving rhetorical support, they're lying.
The CIA made a series of covert moves that helped prepare the Ukrainian security services for the crisis.
So here's how you tell that Putin is lying is if he's moving his mouth.
Right.
But it's not
that's just what a baby would say.
I mean, sure, but like
you're a political baby. You have the political IQ of a 4-year-old if you talk like that. I'm sorry. I can't have an intellectual conversation with you. It's not going to be possible.
Hang on, Denizen.
At least not about this topic, this particular topic.
So you agree? So
your brain has been eaten away by worms if every single thing Putin ever says is a lie.
I mean, I'm gonna agree with Lib on that one, but that's because I seriously dislike Putin for the things that he.
I don't like him either. And he lies a lot.
He lies a lot.
But our leaders lie as well, and he tells the truth sometimes, even if consequentially he tells the truth. Even if it's inconsequential, he still has to end up telling the truth sometimes.
I mean, yeah. Inadvertently, he tells the truth, but it's like,
I mean, he's absolutely sorry. He's said true things before. However, it's in his political interest oftentimes to lie. I mean, hell, look.
Of course, look at, just like it is for Biden.
Just like look at his justifications for invading Ukraine. They have changed significantly over
he wants the Russian Empire back.
Yeah,
that's why he needed the port.
But that's an
he needed Crimea. But the water supply, the fact that he took Crimea in 2008, but couldn't control it because Ukraine still had the water supply, it was actually bleeding him instead of becoming a benefit. Yes. So he used the Donbass as a physical stronghold in order to spread out into the Black Sea and get the water supply back for Crimea. That's why he did it. Anything else is fucking bullshit. The same exact way that when America does the same exact thing and then says it's for freedom, it's fucking bullshit.
No, I agree, but again, all of that was an inference. He's not saying that they're doing this because they wanted, because that would, geopolitically look bad for him. He wants to look. Russia wants.
I think he's talking to the American public when he lies.
Yes.
When he lies in English, it's to us, so that some people who don't support Biden, it helps erode away at the. It helps erode away at the current administration's agenda the way he talks when he lies in English.
We can actually there's a big difference. Like when just look at the Tucker Carlson interview that he did.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of American people say like, oh wow, Putin is such a eloquent speaker and he knows so much about history, and I'm like, dude,
oh my god,
he was so wrong about most of the things.
He fucking blamed Poland for getting invaded.
Right. Exactly. And that's just one of the things that he was completely wrong about, and he tried to almost what's the word for it? He wanted to make it look like it was actually his right to do so. It belongs to him.
They want a just war. He doesn't.
It's Mother Russia. Come on, it's
he doesn't.
It's the USSR.
He wants the implication or the insinuation that this is not like a might makes right thing, that he is justified in engaging in this war, obviously.
Yeah, but that's because people don't realize that the guy made himself a messiah in Russia. He actually had the fucking church baptize him.
Yeah, he's
immortalized over there. He has and he fucking changed the constitution in 2020.
Again, though, that's what people throughout history have done.
Russia's had Russia's had problems.
Here's the problem. I don't think that a lot of people actually did it, because if that was the case, that someone in power could just change the constitution on a whim and make sure that he would never lose his position. Don't you think that someone in the United States would already done it? Or
Russia has
survived 4 years of Trump. That's as close as I've seen, because we have our. That's what I like so much about our system.
We don't have a. Yeah, the thing is, Jeff, there's a distinction between us, the American democracy and the Russian Federation's democracy, is that Russia really hasn't ever pulled away from their autocracy. Russia's kind of always been a form of autocracy. It's a, from back to the days of the czars to the USSR to today, they're just kind of, they have had autocratic rulers. That's just their thing.
I see Putin as slightly more powerful than our president.
That's because
mostly because it's cultural, and they actually believe in him there. And if we in other words, if Reagan were to run again, he would look just like Putin. A president that had 70 to 80% of the popular support could get away with the same exact shit Putin's getting away with.
Do not.
I don't
agree.
That's why they put term limits in place when FDR was president.
The president does not. The president of the United States does not have nearly the same degree of power that Putin has over Russia. I agree with you that America is not some fucking perfect democracy where we're free from oligarchy and all this other shit. We do have these issues, but not nearly.
Those aren't the two standards I'm talking about. near perfect and oligarchy. Like America is super fucking. It's expa-fasciacious away from fucking perfect democracy. It's a fucking. It's what's that dude's name? Verhoeven. Yeah, it's a Paul Verhoeven movie. It's a Paul Verhoeven movie, fucking propaganda film version of fascism. It's such a ridiculous fucking caricature of a fascist dystopia that it's a fucking joke. So is Russia worse? Probably, but I don't know because I've never been.
I wouldn't. I mean, well,
Starship Troopers, Jeff. Starship Troopers.
We're so bad. That's why everybody's trying to come to the United States.
It's because where all the money is.
Yeah, I was about to say that's kind of a poor.
They don't give it like. They're not coming here for freedom.
Denizen,
they're coming here for economic advantages.
Where else do you want to live?
I want to live. Well, I won't tell you exactly, but it's around Kansas.
But that's in America.
That's still America.
Why wouldn't it be America?
No, where do you want to live? If the United
States. Where do
you
want to live if not the United States?
Like, what country would make you happier, or does it better, or satisfies you more?
There's no country that actually does it better.
I can't think. Yeah, what's a country that's going to satisfy me?
That's actually what
if you don't like America, where would you prefer to be? Which country is doing it more to your liking? Is not that
he wasn't saying he was saying the U.S. was the best country, though. That's what he was saying. He was saying everyone wanted to come here because we're the best.
In that comparison, like it's not that America's the worst. It's that even if it's the best you have to offer is some fascist joke. We live in a global imperialistic system. This is the military seat of the global empire.
The best that we have at this point in history. I'm not.
Well, I mean, best is a very subjective term. I wouldn't even argue with you. Now,
I can identify it as the best among everything else that's out there currently, or has been historically up to this point.
Denizen.
I don't even need to engage with that kind of a claim,
Denizen. I agree with you that like America is like the seat of, I guess we're the global power.
Like, where does this entitlement come from?
But like I don't think that like that means that we're like fascistic. Okay, like I understand that Jeff is probably going to laugh at this, but you're using the word fascist very, very loosely.
Yeah.
No, I'm using it like it means corporatism. Like there's very little difference between any kind of institutional room between corporations and the government and the police state that we live in. It's the ultimate expression of fascism. This is just the Fourth Reich.
That's your opinion. That's how you experience it. I have a different
people inappropriately using the word
what
fascist.
You're describing doesn't match what I'm experiencing. And we're in the same system. So there's some subjective element to it.
Yeah, you're brainwashed and looking at it from the inside. You're one of the people in the propaganda film that thinks everything's so great.
Brainwashed you? What did they tell me? Like, what am I brainwashed into? What do I believe?
Believing that you don't live in a fascist society.
Didn't emerge from
that you aren't enslaved.
We are
that you aren't being taxed.
Why would I believe I'm enslaved when I don't feel like there's no evidence of enslavement?
Well, I don't think. Well, you ask why?
You mean?
I guess by why I would say all the overwhelming evidence that you do live in a fascist society. But if you don't feel a certain way, I don't expect you to think a certain way.
Denizen, you and I agree on so many things. Why can't you like use better language to describe? Okay, like for instance, right? You saying we are enslaved. Okay, like you understand that's hyperbolic, right?
No.
That's hyperbole. Yep.
It's absolutely hyperbole.
No.
It is objectively hyperbole. Like I'm a fucking communist, Denizen. Okay, I'm farther along than you are. Like I can guarantee you that. Okay, but like I wouldn't use that phrase because it's fucking wrong.
No, I definitely wouldn't agree with you on that. It's accurate and correct.
Okay.
We do not live in a police state. I'm sorry.
We absolutely live in a police state.
No, we do live in a police state. That is, our police are very militarized. No, Chuck.
They do not control.
It just becomes at a certain point where I get tired of like dumbing down everything I say and ignoring blatant, obvious realities to the point that like I'm already inarticulate and impatient as to begin with, but it gets to a certain point where it's just like I'm not just going to sit around trying to like pause for the 8 seconds it would take for me to find a word that would be more palatable for you when fascism is correct. It is accurate as fuck.
I have a PDF file for you, but it's
is Umberto Eco's 10 Features of Fascism or whatever?
No, it's actually Cold War Allies: The Origins of CIA's Relationship with the Ukraine.
Oh, actually, if you
and it started back in the summer of 1949.
Can you
now? And I can say this real quick to you, Lib. You got to like the evidence from there is bullshit. Like a lot of it is like it comes straight out of Putin's asshole, right? And I think you would be able to discern the difference between what is and what isn't. But the idea, like, you know, that there's no evidence that the United States deliberately caused the situation we're in right now on purpose.
No, it's not that I don't think there's no evidence. It's that I don't think that there is sufficient evidence.
Okay.
There's a difference. Like for instance, a piece of Russian propaganda saying that is evidence of it, but I don't believe it is sufficient evidence, right? Like,
if everything could be traced back to being Russian propaganda, then nothing's real. You know, Hunter's laptop is Russian propaganda. You know, Trump is a Russian asset. The Russians literally hacked the election on 2016. Like if any time someone tries to make a truth claim, the response is Putin's under your bed making it up. Then where do you go from there? You gotta stop right there.
It's not so much about that. It's about understanding the way in which that kind of propaganda is propagated, and seeing it's a very subjective thing. Like, I'm not saying that what I'm talking about is objective, but what I am saying is that in all of my research into this topic, what the Ukraine invasion and all this stuff seems to be is predicated on Russia wanting to take, you know, bits of Ukraine. They want Ukraine to not be folded into the influence of NATO, which I think that's relatively uncontroversial, but like anything other than that is kind of superfluous. Like other reasons for their invasion are kind of meaningless.
Yeah.
Because that is
although I will say that even though I think it was a bullshit claim, but in time since it started, there has been a lot of things that have come out that do make their whole make the whole thing of them trying to denazify Ukraine seem a lot more legitimate than like it ever had any right to be. That should have been the stupidest claim ever. But there is a lot of Nazis in Ukraine. They're swear to God, they really are.
I mean that's true of actually a number of European countries that aren't Germany, because Germany, this is a very complex. So the denazification thing is very complicated. I.e., there are a lot of Nazis in a lot of Western democracies.
There are really like Nazis.
Well,
in Ukraine, yeah, there are.
Or like left-wing cartoon fantasy Nazis that they get.
No.
It's National Socialists.
Like actually, like
hold on,
Heilzig, you know, like
Jeff.
Hold on, there are just as many Nazis in Russia.
Yes, no.
As
this
there
is
are
not
in
that. Yeah, I was about to say.
It's just that Russia's a much bigger country, so it's the same number of them. I wouldn't say it's the same percentage of them.
Sure, but like the whole point of this is that
what? Hold on.
The existence of Nazis in democracies more has to do with the democracies being more open to freedom of speech than non-democracies. That's kind of a big thing. Like in a lot of these countries, you can't be like put in jail for being a Nazi, which, as much as I might detest the ideology, I think is good and valuable, because I don't think people should, go to jail for thought crimes. So there is like, that's honestly probably the better explainer than probably anything I've ever heard for why, like, there are Nazis in Ukraine. I don't think it's because Ukraine has some unique problem with neo-Nazis or anything like that. Ukraine
it's because
has
of its history against communism.
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah,
because they take that shit personally because of the history with Russia.
Well, yeah, because of the Holodomor, which, like, yeah, no, I understand why why Ukraine has a I guess we call quote unquote a Nazi problem, but like that's not like it's not a unique problem to European countries. Most European countries have it to some degree or another.
But these motherfuckers are right next door, right? That's the thing. So it's just a little bit more concentrated there.
We also don't call it Nazis over here, or at least not to my knowledge. We have neo-Nazis and all that kind of stuff, but it's more like extreme right. Like
that makes more sense to me than Nazi. That seems like a
well, Nazi's a buzz term to get people on Twitter to change their avatar to an orange.
Everything. They use the swashes and everything, to be fair.
Yeah, Jeff. The reason why
the Nazi term has a negative connotation because of the World War II, but it's just extreme right. It's fucking extreme right. That's it.
And they use the same
right, and you're trying to maximize the effect.
No, it's not just that.
I'm not either.
I'm
that's not what I'm trying to do either. I was surprised when that stuff came out. I was really shocked. I thought it was bullshit.
Jeff, are far right, like anti-Semitic, like fascistic elements. They use the same propaganda that neo-Nazis use. They use the same iconography.
Well, just say far right, and I'd understand you much better.
Well, but it's not just far right.
Iconography or the symbolism. That's just a wash and repeat of fucking history. Because
what do you mean it's not just far right?
It is. It is just far right.
Ukraine. So, like, for instance, Viktor Orban, right, the whatever president or prime minister of not Ukraine, of Hungary, he's far right, okay, but he's not. I don't think he's ideologically a Nazi, okay. So there's a difference between, for instance, Viktor Orban.
So it's like a subset of far right.
Yes, they are. I mean, they are far right, but like they are a subset of far right. Like the Azov Battalion is a neo-Nazi Ukrainian military. I mean, they got fucking wiped out, which, like, thank fucking God. But
a lot of them think the Nazis were correct
in Ukraine. But that's, again, because
that's what makes them a little bit different.
Not just in Ukraine, by the way. In the entire world, there are people that think that Hitler was right.
But it's not as much of a problem in other places. Like, there's a reason why it's a unique Ukrainian problem, and there's a lot of historical reasons as to why it is a bigger problem in Ukraine than it is in other countries. Like, Ukraine does have, or at least did have, a neo-Nazi militia. Other European countries don't have like neo-Nazi militias. Ukraine has them.
So they're like the Idaho of Europe.
They might not be as open.
Well,
I have to disagree as someone who lives in Europe that it's not just Ukraine, and other countries have the exact same fucking issue.
And this is where Putin is utterly full of fucking shit. It's really not that complicated. It's complicated how he can get certain people to believe that stupid fucking bullshit, but he made that stupid fucking bullshit up, and it's stupid fucking bullshit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was just saying that whenever some of the information came out about the actual Nazis in Ukraine, it shocked me that it wasn't just complete bullshit.
No,
that there actually was a large concentration of Nazis in Ukraine. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that's actually real. I mean, it was shocking to me that they weren't like even neo-Nazis. They're like classic Nazis, even. Like,
but at the same time, Chris, they didn't give you the same information about the Russian neo-Nazis because have you seen them sporting?
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that there really are. After seeing that, I don't know that there's Nazis a lot more. There are real Nazis everywhere.
They have half of the swastika. Okay.
Yeah.
They are not bold enough to actually use the entire fucking swastika. They use the No, I'm not joking.
It says
like
that's
literally how they make sure that people know that they're actually
Nazis.
Well,
Jeff.
Don't hold significant power in the government.
Yes.
But if I did my homework right, originally when Hitler started off in the wee south of Germany, it was a group that was against communism. That's how it started.
Specifically Bolshevist communism, because the party was called National Socialism. They were pro quote unquote socialism, at least until the Night of Broken Glass, when Hitler's faction purged the actual socialists out of their party.
Yes.
Or was it? Wait, was it Broken Glass or Long Knives? I can't. It was either the Night of Long Knives or Night of Broken Glass.
Here's a quick question.
I think they call it Kristallnacht over here.
Yeah. Quick question. I'm just wondering. I've asked this question before, or I've seen this question asked before, and especially from Jewish people, it gets like people get like irate when you ask this question. But do you think do you think they name themselves the Nazi Party in reference to Ashkenazi? As kind of like you think it's a complete coincidence?
It's an
because
it's like an acronym from the German.
Yeah,
translation.
But I think they did it on purpose.
That's your writer's brain connecting.
Yeah,
things
that is like
it's like they're spelled the same.
I don't. Yeah, no. Also,
what you think it has to do with
nationalist territory?
Well, because the original National Socialist Party was not nearly as anti-Semitic as it later became.
Yeah.
The Hitler faction, sort of like very much amplified the anti-Semitism of the party.
So if we had a regular guest on the program who was a Nazi, could we do a segment called Ask a Nazi?
Ask it.
Oh God!
I was on a
podcast
with an
bad.
actual Nazi one day.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry. Somebody it was serious for too long. Somebody had to make a joke. I'm sorry.
It's funny, but
a bad joke. A bad joke is still better than no joke at all.
Well, you
Karens
know
are gasping at the moment, Chris. Karens are gasping.
It's also worth noting that like people openly calling themselves Nazis is much less common nowadays.
That word has no meaning for us. I just tune out when I hear it. Well, like this person's not serious about communicating.
When I'm using the word, I'm talking about far right, fascistic anti-Semites.
I'd rather that would make more sense to me if you said that than if you said Nazi. I would take
except for the guy that they gave the standing ovation to at the Canadian like Parliament, who literally was an actual Nazi that actually fought for the Nazis in World War II.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oh wait, was that like an oops with like a Dr. Evil pinky to the mouth? I don't know.
It was an actual oops.
It was an actual oops, but it's still hilarious.
I don't know about that.
No, it was. But like. All this to say, I mean,
I'm just saying. In that case, that guy and there were actual classic Nazis in Ukraine. Like people actually fought for the Nazis in World War II. Yes. That was what my point was originally. I was surprised by that. I didn't know that was a thing.
I thought
all those people were dead by now. I didn't think that they were still out there. Like so. I was just like. I was like, what Nazis? Like
the propaganda still lives on. Like there are people that like actively hate Jewish people,
which is stupid.
No fucking reason other than just being Jewish.
Well, we can thank Europe for that, and America can thank Europe for any anti-Semitism over here. So thanks, Europe. We love how
thanks Europe. Over here, you're awesome.
We imported the anti-Semitism, right?
Wait, how
well, not against all the Semites.
Wait.
Just the half European ones.
Hey, let her talk. Hang on.
Did you just blame Europeans for having anti-Semitism? Because it actually stems from the Ashkenazis and the Judaism. It's not something
the Judaism. She said that like she was Hitler.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
What do you mean? Sorry,
They went over like where did they come from? They come from I'm so not well versed in this whole fucking thing,
Europe.
So I should not talk about this. But they went over to the Holy Land and they claimed it as their own, and then they started this whole anti-Semitism shit.
No, so anti-Semitism has been around. The idea that like sort of ideology, maybe not in that like word, has been around, but like that idea has been around for a long time.
Yes.
Going back.
The word is an oxymoron.
the 1500s, 1600s has like as published, anti-Jewish propaganda, like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion comes from what, the 1500s.
In Europe, European Jews who came to Europe were very limited in how they could work. There were very limited amounts of jobs they could do because Europeans were very at the time didn't really like Jews. At the time, the Catholic Church still blamed Jews for the death of Jesus, and given that Europe was very Christian at the time, that did not make Europeans like Jews very much, and as such, that's where you get a lot of European anti-Semitism sort of began from, is from fucking 1,000 years ago.
I thought Hitler actually was the one who made it impossible for them to get a normal job, and that's why they went into banking.
No, in Germany, way before, way before that.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is in the 900s AD.
Oh yeah, I wasn't born then, so
yeah. Well, but that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking
None of us were.
I'm talking about where it started.
But
then
maybe me. I might be an immortal. You don't know. You'll never know.
By the 1800s, by the 1800s, a lot of the legal discrimination had sort of, not all of it, but a decent portion of it had sort of faded away just because of the de-emphasization of the church on public life. However, anti-Semitism still was kind of around, and then the Nazis kind of pumped it back up to 11, which was why after post World War II, the Jews, well, specifically Zionists, but Zionist Jews had asked or wanted a homeland, wanted a place where they could be, where they would not be persecuted, and
the Holy Land.
And given that the world powers at the time weren't exactly like some cool, neat, progressive, like the people who they didn't do it the way Lib would have done it. Well, I mean, but they had the League of Nations, which is like most countries in the world, so that's pretty settled.
I think they deliberately wanted to cause.
But we've had this
1,000 years of chaos
so many times on here where we loop about the history of modern day Israel.
Who could have possibly known that the Ottoman Empire, right? If they took the Jews and slapped them right in the center of what was the Ottoman Empire, that it would have been a problem. How could anybody have foreseen there would have been any kind of inability to get along?
It's the gun circle thing again. How could
if only we had known.
A lot of the propaganda around that sort of idea was a people without a land and a land without a people, except for the fact that there were people living there. So,
fuck them.
I mean, that can be your perspective, but in that case, I mean,
that was their perspective. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. I'm pretty sure Britain was like, fuck them.
Germany proved that point before the war when they sent out the SS St. Louis from Hamburg full of Jewish people, and nobody would take them in.
Yeah, people were really anti-Semitic, yeah.
So
it wasn't just the Nazis that were anti-Semitic.
It's such a weird thing to think of. I mean, even Christian, practically canonized saints like Martin. I mean, they're not canonized because he's Protestant, but people in the Protestant religion, basically, might as well be canonized saints. But Martin Luther was vehemently anti-Semitic. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's so bizarre to think of how anti-Semitic people were for so long.
And it's even scarier that you actually, and this is just over here, at least in Europe. That you can actually see it, the cycle is repeating itself, but this time not with the Jewish people, but with the people from Afghanistan and the people from Syria.
And immigrants,
yeah.
You're starting
the immigrants, but from a specific country. Area. It's not just all the immigrants. It's Syria, it's Afghanistan.
I would say, I mean, so broadly, the propaganda is that it's about Islam, but I do think that a lot of it has to do, I mean, it somewhat has to do with Islam, but it more has to do with the the race stuff. It's their
anti-Semitism, which is literally Semite.
Well, yeah, actually, yeah,
a Semite
is someone from the Levant. Yeah,
there's no such thing as anti-Semitism. Yeah. Arabs are Semites.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Is like It's literally is anti-Semitism because it's like because a Semite means like a desert person or something like that.
A Semite is someone who spoke one of the Semitic languages. So it's Jews, Arabs, Persians.
Well, actually, so it actually Semite doesn't refer to Persians. Semite just refers to people who lived, people who are like ethnically from the Levant, which is basically the western portion of the.
But what it means is anti-Jewish. At least
when
that's how it's used.
Colloquially, we use anti-Semite to mean anti-Jewish. Yes,
not even colloquially. Like that's pretty much all it means in the modern world.
But the word Semite, the word Semite, it does refer to people of the Levant. So yes, you could argue that the current sort of anti-immigration stuff of Europe is anti-Semitic in the very literal sense.
I'm here.
But obviously it's not how we colloquially use the word. Even though I think like it works. It kind of tracks, considering they're also using a lot of the very similar kinds of propaganda to
both Jews and Arabs are both anti-Semitic.
Can I make a joke just for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Go
ahead.
You know who actually does the propaganda?
Who?
British people.
Yeah. Fuck British. All right. You know what? Okay.
Because they got a propaganda.
Yes. Thank you. Oh my God. Finally. Okay. Thank you.
Australians could qualify too, there, Les. They got a propaganda.
All right. I'm gonna leave on this, okay? Because I actually have to go. We have friends over, but I'm gonna leave everyone with this.
Ooh, friends. Aren't you special?
There's one acceptable group to be racist towards, and that is British people. Okay, no other group. But you are absolutely allowed.
Wow.
I only hate two kinds of people.
I was hoping we could go over the 14 defining characteristics of fascism before you left.
We did that Umberto Eco thing. I did a whole stream on it one day.
Yeah, which is why that's how I use the term fascist is like
which is not that's what
patriotic mottos, slogans, symbols, songs, flags.
Hang on. Dan.
Human rights can be ignored.
Dan, I need the microphone. Let me make this point before.
I need some microphone.
See, I already forgot it. God damn it. Go ahead.
He was saying how he uses your stream that you did as the example for what fascism is.
I remembered it now. Yeah. I'm never sure if you're actually trying to communicate or because you're so married to using language in a certain way instead of in the meeting the person you're talking to where they are linguistically to bridge that understanding.
What do you mean?
And I just want to leave you with that because I want to talk about that next time of why there's so many different ways I would communicate than with the way you do it with the words you choose. And so I'm never sure if you're choosing to communicate or if you have some other purpose for using those words.
So provocation
with your ability to communicate.
I understand what you're saying. However, I'm not sure what you mean by this in relation to fascism, because I feel like I have been pretty explicit anytime I've used.
I'm just talking about in general, and no, you haven't, but we can definitely take this up next time.
Sure, please, because I do think this is an interesting topic and one that I think I could definitely benefit from.
Because after we weed through the language, I'm like, oh yeah, if that's what he was trying to say, sure, I get it, yeah. But if you would just start at that point, we could.
I guess I understand what you're meaning. I don't feel like anytime I've used the word fascist that I've used it.
I'm not talking about I've moved on from just that one word.
Okay.
Just a general observation about your language.
Yeah. Then in general, I actually
your motives for communicating.
Okay. Then I think that's actually a good topic that at some point I would like to talk about, because if that's
why do you talk the way that you talk, Lib? That's the question that we have.
Provocation.
I think that's a common perception among people who feel provoked during a conversation.
Maybe
and it's actually a projection.
I mean, that's always a possibility, but also I'm open to the possibility that I'm not being as clear as I could be, and I don't want to be.
I
don't like being misconstrued.
Ideologue.
Right. But I find that's consistent among all of us, right?
Which is why I personally have so much respect for you, because I always know that like you're at least open to the idea that you might not be communicating yourself quite right, and like I think that's very admirable, because like almost everybody else is
and you're talking to someone that has a lifelong history of communication difficulties. So I am.
Yeah, I find it's usually a sign of a hidden agenda.
Same.
I mean,
dude, I am fucking eloquent, and I don't give a shit if you agree with me or not.
I do not think it's intentional. I'm not saying it's doing intentional. I'm just pointing out that
Chuck, I do actually.
It confuses me as to what is he trying to communicate, or is he trying to do something else that he needs this particular language for?
Yeah, and also it's worth noting, Chuck, I understand that. However, I do want to emphasize that my goal is to be as open and honest as possible. I don't want to be deceptive or anything like that, because I think that my political ideas can survive scrutiny, and I don't think that I don't.
There's no.
Well, I mean, sure, you can you can rhetorically use rhetoric tricks to sort of get points across, but I think that's different than
really like ham-handed ones.
Sure, that's fine. I mean, yeah, but that's mostly because I don't want them to be tricks. I don't want people to feel tricked or feel deceived
help you work on that,
when they talk to me. I don't want someone to be like, oh, well, I thought you were this. No, I want look, I'm an anarchist, I'm a commie, whatever. Like
it should be deliberate.
Yeah, like I want people to understand where I am and where I'm coming from, very explicitly and openly, because I think honesty is the best policy. And I really wish people were. I mean, sure, it might be a platitude, but
was it Bezos? Well, have fun with your friend. And it was good talking.
And hey, do you want this bag?
It is a cool bag.
I mean, I'm not trying to charge you for it. I'm just gonna send it to you. Just send me your address.
Yeah, I'll send you my address.
Okay.
It's a really cool bag.
You owe me a definition of fascism.
I'm just saying, it's literally made for people that do paper and dice role playing games.
Yeah,
and
I do.
It's got all the pockets and everything in it. So.
And Denizen, I actually I can go with you. I mean, it'll just be
when you're not.
Yeah, it'll just be us going through Umberto Eco's 10 points, because I think that's probably the best definition I've ever heard, or not definition, but the best feature.
At the same time, is it though? I mean, it is, so. and it is, and it's not, because
fascism's a very difficult ideology to pin down. So
I was going to explain it from my perspective.
I don't think every one of his points is exactly right, though. I don't think every one of his points really points at fascism as much as as people.
This is a Southern goodbye, by the way, for those who are sometimes
a Southern goodbye. Jesus,
we talked about the Irish goodbye.
An Irish goodbye is whenever we just leave. A Southern goodbye is whenever we say goodbye for an hour and a half. Yeah.
They go
an Irish.
I always dread the moment that I actually have to leave somewhere, so I already start like I do this in actual fucking real life, because I hate leaving or hate being the one disrupting the flow of the conversation. But holy shit, dude, you're taking your sweet time.
Yes, no, I definitely am. This is the Southerner in me. However, the autist in me will just sort of up and.
Maybe all Southerners are autists then, because I swear to God.
This is LAX announcing the departure of Flight 32 in 29 minutes.
Point for
because I grew up in not just a Southern household, but I grew up in a Southern Baptist household. My dad was a Southern Baptist minister, and I spent so many nights where I ended up falling asleep in the car waiting for my parents to finish saying goodbye to people. And
at church, they would hang out over an hour in front of they would hang out longer after church than mass.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Exactly.
For me, it's
I just read that, by the way. The Umberto thing, I think it's a terrible description of fascism.
The Echo?
Yeah, it's like only Nazism. It's a very narrow, myopic, limited view of
he really like broadened the term. So that's what they're doing. They take a term that's associated with something really negative. It's hyperbole, and then they broaden it to everything else to try to associate those.
But that's the opposite of what's happening here. People are trying to make fascism out to be Hitler. Like that Umberto Eco thing, it's basically a description of Hitler, not a description of fascism. Fascism is a much broad topic than just one example of fascism in one place at one time.
There are so many fascists. It's not just Hitler. It cannot be.
Yeah, and it's very Nazi specific, his description. I find it lacking, myopic, and not useful, really. I don't know why like Nazi. If you're gonna say if it was like 10 points of Nazism, then I think it would be more accurate. And then, but I don't know how useful that is.
I think he's trying to use an instance of fascism to extrapolate certain general principles of it.
Yeah, but then you're
he's taking the Nazi version,
but he's ignoring all the other instances and excluding them with his description, though.
Yeah, it doesn't fit very well if you
we
apply it to like Franco and
if
you do find the Franco and the Spanish fascism.
I mean, aren't there like levels of fascism, like even in like other countries or other like world leaders, not just that one specific person? I don't know, but I like Chris's idea for Ask a Nazi.
Of course you do.
I dig the name.
Well, we'll keep our eye out for one.
You know one,
Jeff. A lot around.
Well, we had Joshua Jones around. We could have asked him.
No, you know an ex-Nazi.
We do.
Ex-Nazi?
Yeah.
Zach Chalcott?
No, I'm being for real.
Oh,
who?
Fatty?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get Fatty on here.
He's an ex-Nazi. He'll tell you all about it.
Actual Nazi or
allegedly?
Like
more like
neo-Nazi.
The Idaho militias.
Idaho. I have no idea what the fuck that means.
Oh, he's an ex-neo-Nazi. He's an ex-neo-Nazi.
A lot of the militias and white separatists.
Right. So it's just the new version of being a Nazi. It's just the negative connotation for just being, racist and.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, they're in a culture war, so they're gonna try to make the words into as sharp of weapons as they can. Yeah, Uncle Fatty.
Uncle Fatty, there you go.
Uncle, I haven't seen him in the chat the last few days, I miss him because like Uncle Fatty made some comedy gold out of a still of my face that I'm still laughing about to this day. So
well, with all this fresh snow, he's been getting a lot of work in on the slopes. He's an instructor, I think.
Oh, is he? That's interesting. I didn't even know that.
I believe snowboarding and skiing or something like that. I could be wrong, but
that's crazy. I never would have pegged him for that. That's insane. That's crazy. That's
I'm
awesome.
telling you, me either.
I mean, I'm always surprised by people in these panels. Like when I find out like anything about their personal lives, I'm always like, really? That's what you do? Oh my god, that's insane. And it's always like stuff. It's like it's not like cool enough to like make up, but it's like but it's weird enough to be surprising. It's like like why would you make that up? I was like,
yeah, I seen a comment yesterday or day before where he said it was day 87 on the slope. So
okay,
he must be working a lot.
Well, I mean, I guess we're wrapping up anyway. I mean, it's like we've been going at this for 3 hours and 15 minutes now. So, anyway, but it really is. It says 2 hours in yours. Okay, so like, what the hell? Like, why?
2 hours and 47 minutes on mine.
My clock is way off. Then, like, what time is it actually? Like, I guess my okay, yeah, okay. So like my phone says 4:47. My computer says it's 5:15. My computer clock somehow is like a full like. That is crazy.
That will mess you up.
Yeah, it is messing me up. Like I think it's been happening the last couple of days actually. I didn't even realize it just now, and like I'm like, oh, that's what's going on. So I've got to like China. It's China's fault. China.
That's an Apple product, isn't it?
It's an app. Yeah, I'm streaming on a Mac. I just
China.
like it's been sitting. Yeah, China. It's mine for China.
Oh
Sorry.
my God!
No, I don't think it's racist. It's not racist at all. We call it that because it comes from China.
The way Trump says it sounds like it's how he's saying. It sounds like what he's saying every time he says it. Like what you're making fun of it. It sounds like he's not talking about a country. It sounds like he's talking about something else.
I mean,
find it
who are we talking about now? Are we talking about China?
How fascinating it is that how much we helped China against the Japanese and they turned on us like they did. I find that just absolutely fascinating.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think China. I mean, I think
friends of convenience.
Japan's also a good example of a country that kind of turning on. Like there wasn't really a lot of evidence that Japan was going to join like the Axis at the time until like they did, and they, you know, like it's just like one of those things, you know, like where like, you know, like where like that was kind of a shock in itself. So like I think that it's a. See if I can get this thing just reset right.
The axis of evil.
China.
It's China.
Yep.
China.
It's China.
Yeah, he overemphasizes.
We're gonna have an
beginning.
entire panel of echolalia right now, like people just constantly repeating the same fucking word over and over and
China.
over, just because it sounds good. China.
I have a lot of antique China that I'm trying to get rid of right now. So.
Do you?
Well, I guess we could end on that. The little China. Sweet.
China.
You got China.
Someone clip.
Yeah, I have a lot of like this. An ex roommate left a bunch of like antique stuff here that I'm trying to get rid of, but desperately.
The oldest
is it
written
complete
story
set?
I think is Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh.
I have the greatest words.
Is it made in China?
It is made in China. It's actually Chinese China.
China.
It's very old. It's like from the 50s and 60s. So I've been trying to figure out what to do with it, but
I'm a Western chauvinist. I really only know the Western stuff. So in the West, I think it's Epic of Gilgamesh. That's what I would answer if I was on a.
You getting crystal?
Be a millionaire.
Do I have crystal? Yeah, I do. Do you want it, Chuck?
I'm talking about as in the glassware.
Yeah.
Oh,
do you?
I thought you meant like the.
No, I wasn't talking about math.
So
no, I was talking about the glassware. I don't.
Yeah,
have
this is an entertainment
Breaking
stream.
Bad
We don't
shit.
do drug deals over here.
Yeah.
I don't have any math here to send anybody.
They got so many
I don't have any
names
math
for that
here.
Yo, Mr. White, you got any crystal left?
I want some. Throw me some extra ice in there with that.
Yeah. If you want, I'll send you some pictures. If you want it, like, I'll send it to you for the price of the shipping on it. It's the only thing. Yeah.
Because I lost all mine when my house burned down.
I've got a bunch of really interesting.
You don't have to pay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get rid of stuff right now. I'm done with trying to sell some
downsizing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get. It's a fire sale right now in terms of this stuff.
Yeah.
I just I want less stuff in my house. I mean, my house is just stuff full. The reason why you see the junk behind me is because there's nowhere else for it to go. It's not because I haven't had. It's not because I don't. It's not because I don't clean up. It's because like right now that's the only place I have to put.
You're not a hoarder. That's just.
No, well, I mean, you could say that. I guess you could call me a hoarder, but I mean, it's not like it's not intentional. It's mostly also left here by other people.
Look at that shirt. That'll tell you he's a hoarder.
The shirt? This shirt used to be inventory. This shirt used to be inventory from my store from a brand called Love in Paris. And on the back of it, weirdly enough, it's a jersey that says Louis the 16th.
Is that a female top? Is that male or female?
It's a male. It's a male shirt. It's streetwear. It's like 6-year-old streetwear.
If it's the end of the show, I will let him do anything. If it means it's the end.
Chris Tommy? Did you call me Chris Tommy?
No, Tommy is a verb.
Yeah, I don't care.
I like the shirt. I want one.
Yeah, it's a cool shirt. I mean, I think it's a good shirt. I have no issue with the shirt, but it is a
I
man's
don't think
shirt.
a lot of people actually understand like the whatever the fuck. I cannot speak. I'm gonna stop talking. I like the shirt.
Well, I'm gonna.
Thank you, Duchess. I appreciate it.
But Chris, do you want to?
You got it discombobulated over there, Chris.
What's it? Oh, yeah. I was.
It's probably the shoulders.
I was very, very upset. Very upset by that comment.
I'm flustered. I'm flustered.
Chris? Do you want to keep it going on your channel so I can?
No, I'm done. No, I'm good. I'm good, guys. You guys go watch Big Brother and have fun doing that. When you guys switch back to
y'all are like 6 minutes away from Talcott anyway.
When you guys switch back to Survivor, let me know, and I'll come.
Well, we can't. We were saving that season for you, and then we never saw you again. So we can.
I was busy. I'm not doing anything tonight, but I might try. I might try. Hey, and it just like I might take I might take a cue from you, Frank. I'm going to try to start streaming some games. Like I haven't figured out a good way to do it.
I saw you this morning. I caught you one this morning, but I didn't want to type anything.
That was a test.
I wanted you to.
That was a test. That was just a test. I was just testing to see if it worked from the PS5.
It was very pink.
So, was it? Did it not look good? Okay, I haven't checked it out yet.
I didn't say it was a pink. I just didn't good.
That's weird. I don't know why it was pink.
You were playing had a lot of pink in it.
I was playing Hammer Watch 2. It was only just a test to see if the streaming from the PS5 worked. That was all it was. But I was just trying to see if it worked. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, Chuck wants you to send him that shirt. I don't think that Chuck does want me. I think he wants some crystal pieces. He wants me to send him the crystal, Mr. White, like she says.
The legal card.
I've got a box full of antique crystal pieces. I can.
I'll okay.
So anyway, well, good night, everybody.
I'll jump off. So you guys
we'll be here
tomorrow.
Sign off. Same time.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Same Outliers time, same Outliers channel.
Yes. And if people are not ready to end the fun, Jack Talcott is streaming in a few minutes. So
if you think that's fun,
y'all could continue there. Yeah, if that's it can be. It depends on who he lets on that day.
I'll go back to jumping on other people's streams eventually. I just haven't been. I've had too much of my mind to be into it lately. Like
Denizen wants to go live.
I would, Denizen, but I'm really. I have a lot of work.
Live beyond fear.
Do you see all this trash and everything? This is the reason it's in this state right now is because I haven't gotten to it, and I need to do things with it and
yeah, we're enabling him.
So I'm trying to actually declutter. So I actually have to get up and go do,
Well, I'm going to help you out right now. There you go. Okay. We'll be here tomorrow and see you then. Fear without love of fear. Okay. Yeah, that. Just Google Jack Talk here. I'll put his channel. If you haven't had the pleasure yet, Jack Talk. I like it. It's like because he lets on trolls that disrupt the panel. But when it's not trollish, they have some really good conversations similar to what we had. So. Okay, see you tomorrow. Bye. Frank, give me 5-ish and I'll meet you there.